American Comics. God-level ability, can hit infinitely. Chapter 21. Time flies. It has been almost a week since the last Hulk incident. Li Xuan has practiced magic very well recently, and his strength has grown rapidly. But he also has his troubles. Trouble is, he's famous. He originally wanted to keep a low profile, but in the end he didn't. Walking on the road, you can see the magicians pointing at him and smiling inexplicably at him. Hiss. This is Li Xuan magician, right? I heard he subdued Hulk. Not only that, I heard he punched Hulk. You guys are too exaggerated. Do you think this is Sorcerer Supreme? I heard that Li Xuan magician easily killed Hulk with a magic spell. I heard that Li Xuan magician only became an intern magician for 3 years. Li Xuan magician is really a genius. This strength is growing too fast. I see Li Xuan magician, he will become a big magician soon. A lot of voices entered Li Xuan's mind. This made Li Xuan very helpless. There is always a feeling that he is a monkey in a zoo. I wanted to be low-key, but I can't be low-key. These magicians are so gossip like ordinary people. Li Xuan couldn't help shaking his head. With a wave, a portal appeared in front of him, and Li Xuan stepped in directly. Next moment, he appeared in the practice room. Why, can't you stand being annoyed again? As soon as Li Xuan came in, Aldridge's voice rang out. Hey, Mr. Aldridge, if I knew it earlier, I shouldn't have shot at that time. Li Xuan couldn't help but sighed and said. He still likes a quiet life. Aldridge couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth when he heard this. Pack. Let's pretend. Isn't it nice to be noticed? He wants to be noticed by others, but he hasn't had the chance yet. This guy simply doesn't know how to be blessed. Okay, you kid, don't show off to me here. Let's get down to business. Aldridge rolled his eyes and said. Yes, Mr. Aldridge. But today, what do you want me to do? Li Xuan asked. Your strength has grown rapidly recently, and your physical fitness and magic power have also reached the threshold. You can practice new magic now. Aldridge spoke. Oh, Teacher Aldridge, are you going to teach me some powerful magic? Li Xuan couldn't help but his eyes lit up. There really is everything in the library. But many magicians have their own unique skills. Like Caecilius. The magic that can turn space debris into weapons with one hand is extremely powerful. The same is the existence of the big magician level, other magicians can't even withstand his blow. This is unique magic. Could it be? Aldridge also wants to give him such a powerful magic. HMPH, you have a good idea. Unfortunately, I belong to the magician of the academic school, and I don't know any powerful attack magic. You are only disappointed. Aldridge said lightly. Then what magic are you going to teach me? Li Xuan spoke with great anticipation. Mirror dimension. Aldridge spat out a few words lightly. Li Xuan was overjoyed when he heard this. It turned out to be a mirror dimension. It's one of Kamar Taj's perverted spells. He has been looking forward to it for a long time. Now Aldridge is finally going to teach him this magic. Then let's get started. Li Xuan spoke with great anticipation. This is the mirror dimension. A high-level magic of the space system. Entering this space and facing certain enemies is invincible. Like facing the Hulk. As long as he is thrown into the mirror dimension, no matter how powerful he is, he will not be able to escape. Without space ability, facing the mirror space, it can only be trapped to death. Not to mention, if this magic is cultivated to a profound level, it can also interfere with the real world, and change reality through space. Can greatly enhance his combat effectiveness. This is a powerful and perfect magic. Li Xuan is naturally looking forward to it. HMPH, your kid also has this time. However, this magic is not easy to learn. Aldridge spoke. In fact, the mirror dimension is an absolute high-level magic. Kamar Taj, also not many magicians are able to master. That is to say, he has some attainments in space to be able to master this magic. He glanced at Li Xuan. Aldridge spoke again. The mirror dimension is said to be a kind of space magic. It's more like a higher level dimension. A reflection of real space. If you want to learn this magic, you must first master the portal very proficiently. That shouldn't be a problem for you. The remaining problem is to distinguish between the mirror dimension and the real space. Aldridge spoke up. Then reach out a little in front of yourself. Li Xuan saw that the space in front of them shattered like broken glass. Li Xuan stretched out his hand, and could clearly feel that his hand seemed to have passed through a membrane. Do you feel it? This is the mirror dimension, which is completely different from the real space. And the trick to communicating with the mirror dimension lies in the sling ring in your hand. Aldridge spoke up. Show Li Xuan the sling ring in his hand. This is the most common and most subtle of Kamar Taj's instruments. Able to communicate the power of space. If you lose the sling ring, you will be trapped in the mirror dimension forever, unless your mastery of the mirror dimension has reached an amazing level. Well, do you feel the difference? Don't worry, feel it with your heart. Most magicians need dozens of days to feel the power in it. Aldridge spoke. Li Xuan just nodded, feeling with his heart. Ding. It is detected that you are learning the mirror dimension, and the God-level ability produces 100 times critical strike. You have mastered high-level space magic, mirror dimension. The system's prompt sounded in his mind. Li Xuan immediately felt a mysterious feeling emerge in his heart. It seems that there is another layer of space outside the real space. It feels like there are two worlds. The two are exactly the same, but separated by a layer of diaphragm. Li Xuan seems to be able to touch another world as soon as he stretches out his hand. Li Xuan stretched out his hand. Click. In the space in front of him, like a shattered mirror, colorful shards appeared. Space cracked. Aldridge. This kid actually learned it. Something wrong with his eyes. Aldridge knows that Li Xuan's ability is abnormal. But I didn't expect it to be so perverted. Ability should also be divided into categories, right? For example, if you are good at water magic, it will be slower to comprehend fire magic. Good at space magic, maybe not good at other magic. He is good at space magic, so he can master the magic of mirror dimension. Li Xuan was amazing in other magic before. He didn't think Li Xuan had much ability in the mirror dimension. Li Xuan slapped him in the face as soon as he changed hands. Just glanced at it. Just learned this magic directly. What a joke. For an ordinary magician, it would take several months to master the mirror dimension. If the ability is slightly worse, it may not be possible to master it for several years. This is still the elite among magicians. Among Kamar Taj. Among the magicians who have mastered the mirror dimension, which one has not practiced for many years. Often after a lot of practice. Only then can they master this powerful magic. But Li Xuan is different. Just glanced at it, listened to his explanation, and learned it. This is outrageous. Aldridge's hands were shaking with excitement. It can be seen how out of control he is now. Mr. Aldridge, is there something wrong with my magic? Seeing that Aldridge was starting to wobble, Li Xuan asked quickly. Hearing Li Xuan's voice, Aldridge reacted. Ahem, I'll take a look. Come on, let's go in. The mirror dimension cannot be seen from the outside. Aldridge spoke. The magic of the mirror dimension is not so much magic. More like some kind of struggle for control. Mirror dimensions exist naturally in this world. What these magicians have to do is to enter the mirror dimension and have more authority. To see the proficiency of this magic, it is necessary to see the degree of control over the mirror dimension. Everyone's mirror dimension is the same. Take Li Xuan into the mirror dimension. Aldridge spoke again. You must be careful in the future, don't use the mirror dimension in front of a magician who is good at magic. If other magicians have a higher degree of control over the mirror dimension than you, it will be very dangerous. Look, I just need a thought. This world will be controlled by me. With this, I can even defeat a senior magician who doesn't know how to mirror dimensions. Aldridge waved. Psychic forces start manipulating things around the mirror dimension. Follow his mastery and ability. Fang Yuan Baile's things should be fully manipulated by him. But his spiritual power radiated out, but it seemed to have touched the iron wall. Aldridge even felt now that he was like a mayfly shaking a big tree. Let him use the strength of feeding. The surrounding space is motionless. Aldridge. It shouldn't be. Aldridge stroked his beard, and accidentally pulled out a few. What do you say shouldn't be? Li Xuan asked. Strange, why can't I manipulate the surrounding environment? This mirror dimension should be manipulated by me. Aldridge's eyes were full of suspicion. Why is the mirror dimension perverted? Can create a huge home field advantage. As long as your power is strong enough, the whole world will be controlled by you. The terrain changes and you can defeat opponents who are much stronger than you. But now, he can't control it anymore. What happened? Could it be that he didn't sleep well last night? Aldridge does not believe in evil. Powerful mental power, move again. On the forehead, the blue blood vessels burst directly. But, the surrounding environment remained motionless, completely unmoved. Aldridge. How is this going? It's weird, why doesn't the surrounding space structure not move? I obviously have the corresponding power, so I can manipulate it. Aldridge scratched his hair. Is that what you said? Li Xuan went crazy seeing Aldridge. Mental power spread out. Next moment, the surrounding space structure moved strangely, as if the surrounding buildings were alive. In essence, the surrounding space structure has changed, and the material structure has not changed in any way. This scene was in Aldridge's eyes, but it made him very incredible. What the hell? What did you kid do? Ababa. Aldridge was at a loss for a while and spoke incoherently. What's going on? What's going on? I don't want to say anything about you learning the mirror dimension, you are a genius, it's normal. But why do you manipulate the surrounding spatial structure? Isn't this unreasonable? Doesn't the mirror dimension need to adapt slowly to gain control? But what do you mean by getting on the bus first and then buying the ticket? This is equivalent to everyone chasing a girl. Get acquainted, eat, and then talk about marriage. If it were Li Xuan, after getting to know each other, he took it home with him. Is this still unreasonable? Is it because you look good? It's unreasonable. It's unreasonable. Don't you feel dizzy and have an inexplicable sense of sluggishness? Don't you feel that the manipulation is a bit difficult? Aldridge asked a little madly. Difficult? No. I feel quite relaxed. Li Xuan touched his nose in embarrassment. It's just a mental move. The surrounding environment has undergone earth-shaking changes again. The surrounding buildings even soared directly into the sky, interweaving from the sky, forming a huge amounts of dome. And the dome is constantly changing. There is an S for a while, and a B for a while. Even more sophisticated than theatrical performances. Aldridge looked dumbfounded. He pointed to the sky, his hands a little bewildered. There are words in the mouth. It shouldn't be. It's impossible. How did you manage it so proficiently for the first time? How can you control such a large range? Could it be that this kid is the son of the space goddess? Is this too shameless? Aldridge was about to cry. He has been practicing this magic for at least 40 years. In front of this magical silly girl in the mirror dimension, he is definitely one of the most proficient magicians. So far, he has only been able to grasp the range of hundreds of meters. Li Xuan is practicing for the first time. The scope of this control is already more than 10,000 meters, and there is no limit at all. It is more than 100 times his. Is this reasonable? It's not fair. Li Xuan, what is his background? It can't really be the illegitimate son of the goddess of space, right? Otherwise, why is it so outrageous? Mirror dimension. It is another dimension different from reality. Many powerful creatures and experts can master its power. Like Dormammu, who is fully able to manipulate the power of the mirror dimension, even Sorcerer Supreme is not her opponent. But, it's not as exaggerated as it seems. He also didn't know how many years passed before he mastered the mirror dimension space. But Li Xuan is different. This is the first time I have mastered such a powerful authority. Aldridge was a little confused. Looking at the upside-down mirror dimension, Li Xuan managed to calm down. Books. Do you feel that something is wrong? To be honest, don't comfort me. Aldridge spoke. You misunderstood, Mr. Aldridge, I really have no problem. It's really easy. Li Xuan said. He really didn't feel anything. Aldridge must have misunderstood, and thought he was comforting him. But actually, Li Xuan felt that he had only used half of his strength. Can only say. God-level ability is really too perverted. Aldridge simply doesn't understand. Seeing that Li Xuan was fine, Aldridge's mouth twitched. This kid. He will not be surprised what happens in the future. Come on, let's go back to Kamar Taj first. Magic can be cultivated slowly. Aldridge spoke. With a wave. With Sling Ring, you want to open a portal directly. Puff. The original golden sparks, like a flame being extinguished by water, went out without saying a word. Aldridge's face darkened. You open the portal. This kid. He has too much control over the mirror dimension, and he can't open the portal. Aldridge couldn't help rolling his eyes. Li Xuan touched his nose in embarrassment. With a snap of his fingers, a golden portal appeared directly in front of him. The two stepped out directly. As a result, they haven't done much yet. A large group of magicians greeted them directly, and it was Wang who took the lead. Aldridge, what did you do? Wang asked directly. We're not doing anything, I'm just teaching Li Xuan magic. Aldridge said very aggrieved. Teaching magic? What kind of magic are you teaching? Wang asked with a serious face. Mirror dimension, it's not some kind of attack magic. Did something happen? Aldridge asked. What's going on? It's not just what happened. The entire space teleportation in Kamar Taj is disabled. Even the portal of the holy place has lost its function. This is no small matter. Wang said seriously. What? Aldridge was taken aback. It shouldn't be. It's just learning magic, how can the entire space transmission of Kamar Taj be stopped? It's never happened before. Aldridge scratched his head in distress. But did not expect. The king opposite him sighed directly. In fact, this kind of thing happened. I have consulted the classics at this time. The mirror dimension is a very peculiar dimension. If controlled to a certain extent, the mirror dimension can affect reality in turn. This, only Sorcerer Supreme can do. Wang said. His eyes turned to Li Xuan, who was behind Aldridge with an innocent face. Gudong. There was a clear sound of swallowing saliva, and the magicians who followed were a little stunned. The eyes looking at Li Xuan were also full of weirdness. You kid, is this really the first time you practice the mirror dimension? A senior magician couldn't help asking. Definitely. Li Xuan touched his nose and nodded. For the first time to practice, can you have this kind of power? Aldridge, have you improved this magic? Another senior magician asked. Do you think that's possible? Aldridge asked. The surrounding magicians fell silent. Yes. How can that be possible? Nothing the Sorcerer Supreme did. Aldridge, what can an ordinary magician do? So how do you explain it now? The magicians were silent for a moment, all focusing on Li Xuan. If there is no problem with magic, so there is no need to talk about what is the problem. It must be that this kid is too perverted. The scene was eerily quiet. The moods of the magicians are extremely complicated. They are all magicians who have practiced for more than 10 years, but now they feel embarrassed in the body of a magician apprentice. Also magician. How can the gap be so big? Even the king, who is a great magician, has a very strange expression on his face. After a long time, he sighed and said. It was said before that you have the qualifications of a great magician, but now it seems that I was wrong. Your ability, in Kamar Taj, I am afraid that only Sorcerer Supreme can match you. You will practice hard in the future, and your future is limitless. The big magician praised it. I'm just a middle-aged person. Li Xuan said very low-key. Hearing this, the mouth corners of the surrounding magicians twitched. The posture of a middle man. If you are middle-aged, what are they? Aren't they even inferior to waste wood? Even the king was a little speechless. This kid is really pretending. The key is, it really made him pretend. People really have the ability. The corner of Wang's mouth twitched invisibly, and then he spoke again. Use magic in Kamar Taj in the future, and don't radiate power into the real world. Also, in the future, unless you have to, don't use magic inside Kamar Taj. I see. Li Xuan shook his head with a wry smile. Wang nodded and said to the magicians around him. Don't talk about what happened today. Just treat it as a space change this time. Don't tell others about Li Xuan, do you understand everything? Wang looked around with oppressive eyes. I'll wait until I understand. The surrounding magicians all nodded together. Okay, let's go. Go about your own business. Wang said something, took a deep look at Li Xuan, turned and left. Aldridge couldn't help but smack his mouth. The big magician is very kind to you. I also specially sealed it for you. A tree is beautiful in the forest, but the wind will rot it. If you can't grow a forest by yourself, let the wind and rain blow, you'd better keep a low profile. Aldridge spoke earnestly. I understand, teacher. I've always wanted to keep a low profile. Li Xuan was desperate. He really wants to keep a low profile. But why did things become like this? Time flies. Under Li Xuan's deliberately low-key. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Rumors about Li Xuan are no longer spreading. The magicians also started their own practice. Unless Li Xuan went out on purpose, no one would pay attention to him. For half a month, Li Xuan has been practicing magic. As his proficiency increased, his strength continued to grow stronger, and the magical energy in his body also increased. Call. Li Xuan opened his eyes and let out a breath. The white air flow shot out like a sharp arrow, leaving a hole on the ground. Yes, strength and refinement. Time to learn some new magic. Li Xuan pondered. Thinking of this, Li Xuan is not in the hesitation either. Open a portal directly and enter the practice room. Now, Aldridge returned to his old job again, giving lessons to the new magician apprentices, explaining the basic theory of magic. Seeing the portal light up, Aldridge waved his hand and let the magician apprentices below learn by themselves. Xuan, why are you here? Is there a problem? Aldridge said kindly. That's right, Mr. Aldridge. I feel recently that other magic practices have reached a bottleneck. So I hope Teacher Aldridge will teach me some new magic. Li Xuan said respectfully. Hear this. Aldridge thumped directly in his heart. Broken. What are you afraid of? Aldridge has been distraught lately. Li Xuan is truly a genius. Aldridge felt that he was not qualified to teach such a pervert. This kind of abnormality should be taught by Sorcerer Supreme. But in just 1 month, the magic he mastered was completely being hollowed out. This is the background of other magicians who have been practicing for decades. How can I play this? But he can't say, he can't do anything, right? Where will he put his face? Seeing Li Xuan's extremely sincere expression, Aldridge turned serious and said. Books. You have to know that tall buildings rise from the ground. If you want to practice new magic, you must fully master the previous magic. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to go far in the future. After finishing speaking, Aldridge patted Li Xuan's shoulder earnestly, with a serious expression on his face. Li Xuan was moved when he heard this. Aldridge was really nice to him, very attentive. At this time, he was still thinking about him. Unfortunately, Aldridge does not have a clear understanding of his ability. Mr. Aldridge, I have mastered the previous magic perfectly, and it will definitely not delay my practice. Li Xuan spoke very sincerely. Yeah, you show me. Aldridge said noncommittally. He actually wanted to let Li Xuan show off, and then he picked some faults at random and asked Li Xuan to go back. When Sorcerer Supreme returns, he will naturally teach Li Xuan himself, so he won't be needed. It's good for him to delay for a while now. Anyway, practicing basic magic can lay a solid foundation, there will be no harm, only benefits. Li Xuan naturally didn't know what Aldridge was thinking. Ask Mr. Aldridge to advise. Li Xuan said something. With a wave of his hand, a golden portal emerged. Li Xuan made a gesture of invitation. Aldridge walked in. Mr. Aldridge, recently I have a new understanding of the mirror dimension, please advise. Li Xuan said something. His spiritual power suddenly radiated out. The next moment, turned upside down. In the mirrored space, the building of Kamar Taj directly turned into a big hand and grabbed it towards them. Aldridge felt a suffocating pressure watching. That's not all. This huge amounts of hand directly turned into a huge amounts of blade. He slashed towards the distance. In an instant, the world turned upside down. Mount Everest, which stands on the ground in the distance, was directly split into 2 halves. Until this time, Li Xuan took a few breaths and looked at Aldridge. On the other hand, Aldridge is stupid. What's happening here? What kind of magic is this? Aldridge was a little suspicious in his heart. What happened just now? Is this the mirror dimension? When will the mirror dimension be able to attack? Because this is a dimensional dimension that does not belong to anyone, most of those who come in can control a little bit of authority. Even if some are strong and some are weak, there is no way to call things in the mirror dimension to attack. That's what permissions do. But just now, this norm is broken. He clearly felt that if Li Xuan hadn't stopped, the big hand formed by the building could easily pinch him to death. Mirror dimensions definitely can't do that. If so, forget it. Aldridge can also be explained by Li Xuan's high level of mastery. Can be behind those countless buildings, with a huge blade covering the sky, split Mount Everest. This is simply unimaginable. The matter in the mirror dimension is the same as reality. Aldridge was so dumb that he couldn't move his eyes. He just realized it now. How terrifying is Li Xuan's ability. Not only learned these spells, but also improved them. The original magic can't do this. This kid is a monster. There is nothing wrong with saying that he is the illegitimate child of the gods. Li Xuan ignored Aldridge and spoke again. Teacher, I am demonstrating other magic. As he spoke, a golden chain appeared in his hand. Throw it forward. The chain suddenly changed to the thickness of a bucket, and it was thrown towards a tall building in front of it. Next moment, the concrete building melted. That's right. It just melted. Red lava flowed down directly from the building. Across hundreds of meters, Aldridge could feel an astonishing heat wave coming from a distance. Is this still a magic chain? The conscience of heaven and earth. The lasers developed by humans are not so powerful. At this temperature, melting steel is not a problem, right? Is this a magic chain? The magic chain has such a perverted high temperature. Everyone learns the same magic. Aldridge was extremely shocked. Li Xuan asked, Teacher, is there a problem with the magic I use? No problem. No problem, very good. Aldridge took a breath, pretended to be calm and said. Then can I practice new magic? Li Xuan spoke excitedly. It can be. Aldridge gritted his teeth and said. In fact, Aldridge panicked like a dog in his heart. What should he teach Li Xuan? Aldridge never dreamed of it. Two kinds of auxiliary magic can exert such astonishing power. The mirror dimension, pure auxiliary magic, they use to spy and experiment with magic. In Li Xuan's hands, this turned into top-level lethal magic, capable of cutting through mountains. Magic chains, not to mention. A spell used to bind enemies. In combat, many enemies can be picked up directly by hand. Now endowed with amazing destructive power by Li Xuan. Aldridge thought of the hot chains, hitting a man. That is direct evaporation. This ability. This is still human. What else can he teach? Aldridge is a little skeptical now that Li Xuan can beat him to death just by relying on the non-attacking portal. How can he teach such a pervert? Taking a deep breath, he calmed down his emotions. Aldridge spoke. Xuan, your combat power is already very strong. I am afraid that even a senior magician is no match for you. What I have taught you is only the basics. Forget it, I'll teach you one of Kamar Taj's remaining 3 basic magics, the magic shield. Aldridge spoke. In Kamar Taj, there are so many magics that they cannot be counted. Magicians can't finish learning all their lives. But most magicians have mastered 3 kinds of magic. Magic shields, magic chains, portals. These 3 magics are said to be the cornerstones of all magic in Kamar Taj. The simplest and the highest limit. Like Sorcerer Supreme, the magic shield used can resist Caecilius' space blade. The magic used by the big magicians can withstand the bombardment of the main guns of the Thanos starship battleship. One can imagine how important this magic is. Look, the magic shield is not simple. But I don't think it's that difficult for you. Aldridge glanced at Li Xuan. Without opening his mouth, he started to operate. He really wanted to see how talented this kid was. If he doesn't marry you, can he learn this magic? Aldridge didn't speak either. The hands start to move. A golden light emerged, and he turned his hands. A golden complex pattern appeared in the midair with the golden light, and the various complex patterns depicted in it appeared out of thin air in the midair. A flick of the right hand. The golden formation gradually shrunk, becoming a magic shield about half a meter in size, which appeared in Aldridge's hand. See clearly. Have you learned it? Aldridge spoke. He was elated. Could it be that this kid can learn it? Before teaching magic, he had to explain it. Not to mention that it is simple, but it also explains various runes and how various energy structures are formed. Li Xuan is a genius, it is normal to be able to learn it over and over again. Now, he just demonstrated it once, and this kid can still remember it with a photographic memory, can he just learn it? Li Xuan couldn't take his eyes off her. Ding! It is detected that the host is observing others using elementary magic. Magic shield, God-level ability to generate 100 times critical strike. You have mastered the magic shield. The system beeps. Li Xuan felt a burst of mystery emerge in his heart. The rune composition, energy structure, mental power manipulation method, and magic power operation form of the magic shield all came to his mind. Incomparably clear. Seeing Li Xuan in a daze, Aldridge thought he hadn't learned. The fragile self-esteem finally recovered a little. Xuan, it doesn't matter if you didn't learn it, the teacher will show you again. Mr. Aldridge, no need, I have already learned. Li Xuan said. Don't worry, you won't be ashamed if you learn. What? You said you learned it. Aldridge was taken aback. You are right, I have learned. Li Xuan said honestly. You show me. Aldridge spoke. He still doesn't believe in this evil. Is this kid really that perverted? The thoughts in Aldridge's mind haven't had time to change yet. Base. A magic shield appeared on Li Xuan's hand. Aldridge. Learned this. This is used. So what is the use of him as a teacher? Can it be used after reading it once? Wouldn't it be enough to just hang out in Kamar Taj every day? All the magic of Kamar Taj mastered in 3 days. The expression on Aldridge's face became a little contorted, as if a wooden splinter had been inserted straight into the toenail. You don't move. Aldridge spoke up. Next moment. He swung the magic shield in his hand vigorously and hit the magic shield in front of Li Xuan. Click. There was a sound of shattering glass. The magic shield in his hand. Broken directly. It's just broken. It shattered directly. The golden magic fragments fell directly to the ground. As the magic shield shattered, so did Aldridge's heart. What is the most heartbreaking thing in this world? That is, others can learn your magic at a glance, even better than yours. This gave Aldridge a sense of his intellectual inadequacy. Aldridge almost cried directly. Aldridge almost crouched on the ground and drew circles. Teacher, are you okay? Now even Li Xuan could see that something was wrong with Aldridge, and asked with concern. I'm fine. Aldridge took a deep breath. If I'm not mistaken, your magic shield shouldn't be a simple magic shield, right? Aldridge asked. Li Xuan nodded embarrassedly. He grabbed the magic shield and threw it hard. The shield in his hand, like flying darts, was thrown out by him directly. The surrounding buildings, like paper cut by a sharp knife, collapsed directly. Aldridge. Your magic shield is really not an ordinary shield. How can it be thrown out? Do you think you are Captain America? Aldridge couldn't help but want to complain. But Li Xuan is not finished over there. Li Xuan waved. The magic shield flew back directly amidst the wreckage, and fell into his hands again. Li Xuan swung again. The golden shield flew out again, and was directly inserted into a small hill in the distance. Aldridge was wondering what Li Xuan was going to do. Boom. An explosion sounded. The magic shield exploded directly. Half of the mountain was cut off. Your magic shield can explode. Aldridge was completely speechless. He had seen how weird this disciple was. It's okay to learn magic quickly. But your changes are too outrageous. Can magic shields be turned into offensive magic? You are so hanging. Does your mother know? It doesn't take long to teach Li Xuan. But afterwards, Aldridge felt unusually heavy. That feeling. It's like Kijiro one night. I don't have any interest in watching anything. Even when the magician next to him greeted him, Aldridge was a little bit ignorant. With heavy steps, with a heavy heart, Aldridge went straight to his immediate boss, Guan He. Old Guan, I can't do this job anymore, I can't do it. Li Xuan, I can't teach him anymore. Aldridge grumbled loudly. With his expression, Guan He in front of him didn't like it at all. Stop it. Having such a talented apprentice, you don't know how proud you are in your heart. Guan He said disdainfully. He has been an old brother for decades, and he still doesn't know this guy. It's really different this time. I really can't teach this kid anymore. You don't know how perverted this kid is. His ability is simply too high. Even Kamar Taj's 3 basic magics have been improved by this kid. Aldridge had a pained expression on his face. What nonsense are you talking about? Guan He rolled his eyes. Why can the 3 basic magics become the 3 basic magics? Because this is Kamar Taj, the most stable, most basic, and also the easiest to learn magic. In a way, this is definitely the cornerstone of Kamar Taj. Single quote. This is the magic set by Sorcerer Supreme himself. Improve. What an international joke. Don't you know that these 3 basic magics all have corresponding high-level magics? How can this magic be improved? I think you're talking nonsense again. Guan He said disdainfully. It's true this time, I don't need to lie to you. My stock has been drained by this kid. Aldridge spoke in great pain. He really has nothing to give to Li Xuan. After all, He can master the mirror dimension, which is already much more powerful than other ordinary official magicians. But he is just an official magician after all. How is it possible to know so many things? He is really unteachable. If it goes on like this, he will start talking nonsense. Seeing the expression on Aldridge's face, Guanhe was still a little suspicious. What you said is true. Why am I so unbelievable? This kid's ability is really that good. Guanhe said. Hehe, since you don't believe it, why don't you go and see for yourself? Li Xuan is still practicing in the mirror dimension. You can just go and have a look, and arrange a suitable teacher for him. Aldridge said with a mocking face. In fact, Aldridge thought. In the whole of Kamar Taj, no one is qualified to teach this guy Li Xuan except Sorcerer Supreme. After all, this kid is really too perverted. When Aldridge said that, Guanhe didn't believe it. He admitted that Li Xuan is indeed a genius. If it develops normally in the future, it will be a big magician in the future. But what Aldridge described was too exaggerated. It seems to be the second generation of Sorcerer Supreme. He still doesn't believe it. Is there really such a god? After slandering in his heart, Guanhe opened his mouth and said. Come on, let's take a look. I want to take a look. How unusual is it for you to praise Yujia's boy? Guanhe snorted coldly, took the lead and walked out. Aldridge followed closely behind. A portal. The two of them directly entered the mirror space. But there is no abnormality in the mirror space, and there is no appearance of wanton destruction at all. Is this what you call a genius? Nothing happened. Guanhe glanced at Aldridge with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Obviously, he was very happy to watch his old friend make a fool of himself. Hehe. Aldridge just sneered. This guy who has never seen the world has no idea how perverted Li Xuan is. Book. Aldridge yelled. The space in front of them was distorted, and Li Xuan appeared directly beside the person they both gave to. Mr. Aldridge, Guanhe magician. Li Xuan saluted very low-key and opened her mouth. What's going on here? Aldridge asked. Oh, I think the amount of damage here is a bit serious, so I restored it. Li Xuan said. Guanhe, Aldridge. Recovery. And something so outrageous. Mirror dimension stuff can indeed be restored. But that can only be restored by slowly repairing with natural energy. What about manual recovery? Can the destroyed matter be restored again? Does this magic really make you play well? Aldridge took a deep breath, and glanced at Guanhe who was stunned. A sense of pride welled up in my heart. Look at this uninformed guy. Ahem, Xuan, let's not talk about this. How far have you practiced your magic shield? Let Guanhe magician see it. Aldridge spoke. He has adapted. Now let's see what kind of expression Guanhe, an ignorant guy, will have. Yes. It happens that I have gained something, and I also asked the two magicians to give pointers. Li Xuan said with a faint smile. Next moment. With a wave. A whole 8-sided magic shield appeared in front of him. Guanhe. Aldridge took a breath and quickly adapted. Hehe. He's used to it, don't even think about shocking him. Aldridge was very pleased with himself. Just see. The 8-faced magic shield in front of Li Xuan actually integrated directly. Integrate. Just integrate. Aldridge, people are stupid. He opened his mouth wide, his eyes widened, and his expression looked like a fool. The expression on Guanhe's face next to him was even more distorted. What is this thing? How can the magic shield be able to integrate? It's not over yet. Li Xuan waved his hands. The integrated huge shield was directly grabbed by Li Xuan. He waved his hand. That huge amounts of shield was thrown out by him directly. The shield was like a weapon, it flew out and stuck directly on a hill. Boom. Next moment. Huge amounts of golden light emerge. The small mountain was blown up and disappeared out of thin air. Guanhe. FK. What is this? How can the magic shield explode? Is this reasonable? How could the magic shield explode? Guanhe was simply dumbfounded. This kid. What kind of monster is it? How could the same magic be put on this guy? How could he be so perverted? What the hell is going on in this world? No wonder Aldridge couldn't teach this kid. He feels like he can't teach. Time flies. The time to learn magic always passed so quickly. Inadvertently. Another half-year passed. Li Xuan is still practicing in Kamar Taj. He didn't expect that a world-changing event had already happened outside. NASA's Space Radiation Center. Shield Accelerator Test Center. This is a very magnificent building. The building above the ground alone has more than 20 floors. Under the ground, it can be called the project of the century. It was dug down 100 layers by SHIELD. The soil and rocks with a thickness of hundreds of meters are enough to isolate all detection and radiation. It can be said that this is one of the most important bases of SHIELD. But, at this very important base, a piercing alarm sounded. Countless people and vehicles are beginning to evacuate. Although the situation was a little flustered, it was still in order. At this time, a helicopter descended from the sky, and a one-eyed, bald black man got off the plane. That's exactly SHIELD director, Nick Fury. There was no expression on his face, but his movements were a little hasty. As soon as he got off the plane, Nick Fury asked Phil Coulson, an elite agent of SHIELD. "How bad is it?" "The problem is, we don't know how bad it is." Phil Coulson said something, and the two of them hurried towards the underground base. While taking the elevator, they arrived at the 100th floor underground, the most mysterious research institution. "Evacuate everyone." After saying something to Phil Coulson, Nick Fury hurried into the laboratory. "Doctor, what happened?" Nick Fury asked directly at the highest person in charge here. "The Tesseract faltered on its own. The person in charge here, Dr. Selvig, who was also incorporated by SHIELD, said. "Are you joking?" Nick Fury has an absurd face. Tesseract is a dead object, how can it move by itself? In fact, this is the case. The cosmic magic started by itself and began to emit interference and radiation. It's just some low-energy gamma rays, and there is no harm. Dr. Selvig spoke. It can be dangerous too. Doctor, we are not talking about using the energy of cosmic magic. Nick Fury asked. This period of time is comparable to the unrest in China. First, Hulk, who had lived in seclusion for a long time, suddenly appeared in New York and destroyed a block in New York. Furthermore, Tony Stark is crazy about making things happen in the news. In recent months, all the news has been slaughtered by him, and information about Iron Man is everywhere. What's even more exciting is that this guy Thor fell from the sky. SHIELD is aware of Asgard's existence. In response to the threat, Nick Fury set up this lab directly. He wants to protect the Earth by researching Tesseract and making more powerful weapons. Now, before the weapon is researched, the cosmic magic is activated by itself. We have not mastered the power of cosmic magic. This is unknown to us. Dr. Selvig spoke. Just when two people communicate. Various machines buzzed suddenly. The energy of cosmic magic has reached its peak. Doctor. A researcher shouted loudly. What's going on, Doctor? Nick Fury was going crazy, and said angrily. Tesseract is a portal. Now the portal has been opened from that end. Dr. Selvig spoke. He hasn't finished yet. The Tesseract directly burst out a burst of huge amounts of blue waves. A beam of light soared into the sky, leaving a vortex above the base, and the blue shockwave spread directly. The surrounding SHIELD agents were directly blown away by the blue shockwave, even Nick Fury flew out. Wait until Nick Fury struggles to his feet. But found that in the center of the field, a young man was already standing. He is dressed in a strange light green costume, and holds a scepter that emits blue light in his hand. Sir, please put down the spear in your hand. Nick Fury spoke. But there was an unusually evil smile on the man's face. Next second, he raised his hand directly. A blue beam of light shot towards this side. Hawkeye saved Nick Fury's life by simply pushing away. Next moment, a large number of SHIELD agents around the area opened fire. The M16 assault rifle made in the United States can penetrate the steel plate from the front, but it can only spark a spark when it hits this guy. His movements were swift and violent. A hop is a few seconds away. 3 attacks, 5 divisions, and a few SHIELD agents who were regarded as fighting elites among human beings, were directly eliminated. Upon seeing this, Hawkeye Barton rushed forward and chose to fight hand to hand. But Barton punched with all his strength and was easily grasped directly. You're a little bit different. The next moment, a strange smile appeared on the man's face. The scepter in his hand touched Barton's chest directly. Blue light spread from Barton's chest, and his eyeballs turned black in the blink of an eye. Then the whole person is directly controlled. Then, the man took control of all the people around him. Nick Fury took advantage of this time. Put the Tesseract into the box, turn around and leave without any hesitation. I advise you not to, I still need it. The man spoke. There's no need to make things bigger. Nick Fury spoke. No, it is necessary. I am Loki, from Asgard. I come here with great honor. Loki spoke loudly. Loki, Tori's younger brother. At this time, the doctor also spoke. We have nothing to do with you. Nick Fury spoke. A wicked smile appeared on Loki's face, and he spoke. Ants have nothing to do with boots. Are you trying to trample us to death? Nick Fury spoke. Loki was about to speak when the controlling Barton cut him off. He's stalling, he wants to bury us in the ground. Barton spoke. As he said that, he took out his pistol and shot Nick Fury, knocking him to the ground. Loki reflexively controlled the doctor, and left directly when he mentioned cosmic magic. Under Barton's cover, boarded the shield evacuation vehicle. Loki's mouth twisted into a wicked smile again. Earth. It's his. He will lead the Chitauri army and rule the entire planet. He really couldn't be king of Asgard. It's not bad to be the king of the earth for another place. Get the Tesseract, and no one can stop him. Loki's arrival is just the beginning. Having traveled all the way from the universe and expending huge amounts of power to come to Earth, Loki didn't come here just for fun. Although he was fooled by Thanos, thinking that he could rule the Earth, Loki didn't know it at this time. He also dreams of ruling the Earth, so naturally he works very hard. His first goal is naturally to open the portal and attract the Chitauri army. To this end, the Avengers that Loki must defeat first. So he showed up directly in Berlin. Ask Barton to take away the iridium element, which is a stable element of the portal, while he waits for the arrival of the Avengers on the square. As expected. When he controlled a group of ordinary humans pretending. A guy in a blue uniform fell from the sky. Oh, soldier. You're out of date, you know that. Loki smiled evilly and spoke. Give it up. Loki. Don't try to fool my mind. Captain America yelled. The shield in his hand was thrown at Loki. The whole person bullied himself and punched Loki. Pity. For Loki, Captain America's fist, so to speak. Superficial. After all, this wasn't the later existence that could resist Thanos' blow. His body has not been exercised, and the effect of the serum has not been exerted to the limit. Naturally not Loki's opponent. Although it seemed that he was fighting back and forth with Loki, but after catching up, Loki didn't even make a difference. Not only did not use all the power, magic was not used. Loki is a frost titan. In terms of strength, it is a bit stronger than the Asgard people. Right now, it's just acting. Just as he was enjoying himself, a black flight controller fell from the sky. Black Widow's voice sounded from it. Loki, surrender. Loki smiled at the sky. The blue scepter in the hand shoots a blue laser directly. Black Widow could only dodge helplessly. When she was helpless, the system of SHIELD's Quinjet fighter was directly hacked, and a burst of music played. In the sky, a yellow light descended from the sky. Iron Man, Tony Stark. The laser flashed in Stark's hand, and two yellow beams shot directly at Loki, knocking him out of the air. Later, Tony Stark cooperated with the captain and gave Loki a big beating. Although Loki didn't suffer any injuries, he still sat down on the steps and was caught without a fight. You won, take me back. Loki held out his hand cooperatively. Iron Man and the others didn't think there was anything wrong, grabbed Loki and left. They should have gone straight back to SHIELD's helicarrier. It's a pity that on the way, they also met Thor, who came to snatch someone. They also had a fight in the middle, which was delayed for a while. But, in the end, they still converged on the space carrier. The members of the Avengers, Loki who was captured, and the psychic scepter who was used as a weapon, all boarded the helicarrier. What they don't know is, the psychic scepter, the reason why it is called the psychic scepter, is because it has strange powers. The members of Avengers were influenced by the psychic scepter unconsciously, and they started arguing directly. This also gave Loki a chance. Hawkeye Barton, whose mind was controlled, just happened to attack him. Directly abolished an engine of the space carrier. The space carrier was suddenly chaotic. Dr. Banner was already affected by the psychic scepter, and was stimulated to transform directly, and then fought with Thor. Huge amounts of destructive power, almost crashing the entire helicarrier. In the end, Hulk was led away by the fighter and jumped off the plane. Thor also leaves the fight and goes to find Loki. Pity. Thor at the moment is still a bit naive, he was played around by Loki, and was directly thrown from a height of tens of thousands of meters as a can. In the confrontation between Loki and Avengers, Loki wins all round. Killed Phil Coulson and got the scepter. Loki went straight to New York. After a big fight, the Avengers also took control. With everyone's brainstorming, they also found Loki's target. It is the Stark Building, powered by the arc reactor, located in the heart of New York. Tony Stark flew directly to the building wearing his armor. Pity. Late. Even if it's a fight. They still haven't stopped Loki. The portal powered by powerful cosmic magic was directly opened. In the sky of New York. A crack with huge amounts of blue appeared. Chitauri's army, like locusts all over the sky, swarmed out of that crack. Ha ha ha. I will be the king of the earth. Loki laughed, took a blow from Thor, and fell straight down the stairs. Depart in a small Chitauri boarding craft. For a while. Avengers, facing thousands, armed with high-tech weapons Chitauri. The number of this army is like locusts. The sky is so densely packed that it is impossible to count how many there are. For a while. Even the members of Avengers turned pale. But, New York is a city of huge amounts of. It's not just the Avengers protecting the planet. All kinds of superheroes hidden in the huge city of New York have come out to fight and protect the city. If not, how could it be possible to stop the endless Chitauri soldiers with just the 3 combat powers among the Avengers? Among these people, the one who exerted the greatest strength was naturally Kamar Taj. Because of the butterfly effect of Li Xuan's appearance. Even with that happening, the Sorcerer Supreme still hasn't returned. Therefore, it is the king on duty who guards the holy place in New York today. Powerful, he soon discovered the Chitauri star who fell from the sky. See this happening. He decisively sounded the huge alarm bell at the center of Kamar Taj. This powerful magic weapon rang directly. A large number of magicians have returned from the outside world. Whether it is the great magician Caecilius guarding in another dimension, or the great magician Hamel who is researching magic. Modu, who is still wandering around the earth looking for good seedlings, was alerted by this powerful magic weapon. For a while, the sky above Kamar Taj is covered with golden portals of various functions. In the main hall of Kamar Taj, a large number of grand magicians and senior magicians gathered. At the head was Mordo, and below him Caecilius, and after that the king. King, what happened that you rang the bell? Modu asked. Hearing this, Caecilius with a gloomy face also looked over. New York has been invaded by aliens. The war is coming. We must protect the holy place. Wang said with a serious face. In an instant, the faces of the big magicians became very serious. Although the magicians are peace-loving. But Kamar Taj is definitely an organization with great war potential. When the final battle, Doctor Strange gathered tens of thousands of magicians to join the battle in a short period of time. It can be seen how quickly Kamar Taj mobilized. It's the same this time. Within minutes of the bell ringing, thousands of battle-ready magicians were ready. Which naturally includes Aldridge. Teacher, are you going to join the battle? Li Xuan stopped Aldridge who was walking out in a hurry. It has been almost 4 years since he traveled to Kamar Taj. Naturally, when the bell rang, all members joined the battle. This magic weapon is something left by the legendary great magician Merlin in history. It is said that it was used by King Arthur to summon the army, and it is older than Ancient One. Later, it drifted to Kamar Taj and became a very important magic weapon, even able to contact magicians in other dimensions. The thing sounds, and the magicians are all returning to Kamar Taj to join the battle. But Li Xuan was very curious about what happened. I definitely want to fight, and I'm also a battle magician. Aldridge said triumphantly. What happened? You are going to the battlefield. Li Xuan ignored Aldridge's complacency and asked directly. In his eyes, Aldridge is also a teacher, and this kind of people have to go to the battlefield. So what happened? How could he not remember such a thing happening? Hey, who knows, I heard that New York has been invaded by aliens, we have to protect the holy place. But don't worry, I will be in the holy place, and there will be no danger. Aldridge said nervously. Li Xuan. The New York War happened. When Li Xuan thought about it, he was right. The year he traveled back to was 2009, and Iron Man was in the limelight all of a sudden. 3 years later it was indeed time for the Great New York War. As for the Hulk matter, it's normal. God knows what kind of butterfly effect he caused when he crossed. During the Battle of New York, Ancient One was still on the roof of the big plane, but now he has never seen the existence of this legend. But the battle in New York is a bit dangerous. Wouldn't it be a disaster for Aldridge's small body to go up? To know. It was during this battle that Hulk exploded directly, blasting an interstellar warship costing at least tens of thousands of tons with one punch. It's not that he looks down on anyone. Aldridge has a small body, but if he is affected, he will just laugh. Mr. Aldridge, let me go with you. Li Xuan said. Aldridge is still very good to him, can't he watch Aldridge die? No, you are an intern magician, how can you? Speaking generally, Aldridge stopped directly. He looked at Li Xuan. This kid is no ordinary intern magician at all. This kid's strength probably has the strength of a big magician, right? This kind of strength might outlive his life on the battlefield. Cough cough, you boy, come with me. This time we follow Master Caecilius and support New York holy place. You have to behave well, Master Caecilius, but the disciple of Sorcerer Supreme, recently in Kamar Taj, he has been in the spotlight. Aldridge said with a look of envy. Li Xuan slandered endlessly in her heart. He knew Caecilius, and knew that he was going to betray Kamar Taj. I thought about it in my heart. The two went directly to the main force for that person. After Caecilius said a few words above, he directly opened the portal. Dozens of magicians walked in directly. Li Xuan didn't even have time to look at Caecilius. Go through the portal. Li Xuan came to a block, surrounded by building debris and various bombed-out cars. Teacher, this doesn't seem like the interior of the holy place. Li Xuan muttered. Aldridge was about to speak. The voice of Caecilius in the front has already sounded. Tesseract interfered with the portal, we are now in the center of the field, ready to fight. Caecilius' voice just fell. Li Xuan looked up. A blue beam of light rose into the sky, and there was a huge circular crack in the sky, from which Chidorus kept flying out. Good guy. Li Xuan glanced at Caecilius. The teleportation was crooked enough, and it was teleported directly to the Stark building, which is more than a dozen blocks away from the holy place. This time he entered the center of the battlefield. Li Xuan couldn't help but sigh, why is he so unlucky? He doesn't want to come to this kind of place. Reality is different from movies. Chitauri is equipped with energy weapons that can melt steel. The giant whale warship is equipped with a main gun, and it is not the useless landing ship in the movie at all. Why did the Security Council launch nuclear weapons? Are they really mentally handicapped? It's because the army is being suppressed and beaten, and the situation is completely out of control. Now the wine glass teleports him to such a dangerous place. Fortunately, however, there are quite a few magicians around him. Magicians have very high fighting qualities. At Caecilius' order, they were ready for battle. Base. The sounds made by various magic shields are endless. When Li Xuan saw the magicians make a move, he also made a move. Base. 20 magical shields appeared directly beside Li Xuan in succession. Block him directly. Immediately. Li Xuan became the most eye-catching cub among the magicians. After all, 20 shields emitting golden light are flying around, it is really hard not to attract attention. Even Caecilius, who had always had gloomy eyes and no expression on his face, couldn't help but twitch his mouth when he saw Li Xuan. Are you a magic shield? Has he been away from Kamar Taj for too long? Why haven't I seen you for a few days, and the magic shield can be like this? Not to mention 24, can you still fly? You're playing acrobatics here. Caecilius took a deep breath. He is a big magician, so he knows how difficult it is to operate like this. A total of 24 magic shields must maintain the same energy structure and energy strength, and they must not interfere with each other or collapse. This difficulty. This is simply not something that ordinary magicians can use. Caecilius felt he could barely use it. But definitely not so smooth. At the same time, to maintain these magic shields, he can't even think about doing anything, just maintaining them is very difficult. This kid. What pervert? Who is this? Caecilius asked. This is Li Xuan, an intern magician. A senior magician next to him said. Caecilius. Is this an intern magician? Kamar Taja's practice magician, the standard is so high. Caecilius' surprise didn't last long. Because the Chitauri who are constantly flying in the sky have discovered the existence of Li Xuan. They started to operate the flight controller, whistling and flying over. Their small landing craft are equipped with powerful energy weapons. Bang bang bang. Blue beams are constantly directed at the magicians below. The magicians raised their shields to resist. The blue energy beam hit it without pain or itching. HMPH, alien beast. Caecilius cursed. With a swipe of both hands, a transparent space blade appeared in her hand. Caecilius flicked the transparent space blade and shot it directly, and inserted it into the engines of those small landing craft with incomparable precision. Boom. Boom. 2 Chitauri airships exploded directly. The magicians were shocked and started to fight back. All kinds of magic were used directly. Pity. These spells had little effect. This is not a mentally handicapped existence that was deliberately weakened in order to show Avengers in the movie. These are alien technologies. Although in the Milky Way, the Chitauri stars are considered rubbish, but on Earth, this is the most top-level army. Ordinary weapons can't break that solid metal at all. The magic of ordinary magicians is difficult to pose a threat to them for a while. Only several magicians attack together to kill a flight machine. But this is a drop in the bucket. What the Chitauris sent was an army. For Thanos, who occupied an unknown number of planets, there were as many flight devices as there were in this block, let alone hundreds. This is not counting the stragglers on the ground. How many can the magicians destroy? The situation is not good. Why are there more and more alien monsters? Aldridge couldn't help but speak. It has indeed changed. Looks like I need to work harder. Li Xuan couldn't help sighing. His magic shield is too high profile, directly sharing half of the firepower for the magicians. Li Xuan didn't make a move just now. But now, it's impossible not to make a move. Li Xuan's eyes were fixed, and he saw dozens of Chitauri landing ships gathered together, firing salvos in this direction. The blue light illuminated half a block for a while. Several magicians worked together to prop up the magic shield to resist the attack. Li Xuan has no hesitation. 2 golden rays of light shot out with a wave of the hand. Boom. Huge amounts of explosion spawn. All his ships within 100 meters of Fang Yuan exploded. The sky is full of brilliant sparks. Magicians. Caecilius. What did they see? The magic shield exploded. Just kidding. Isn't magic shield purely defensive magic? How could this thing explode? The magicians couldn't help but take a look at the magic shield in their hands, and the expression on their faces was a little suspicious of life. Caecilius couldn't help but glanced at his magic shield, and finally resisted the urge to throw it out. I'm afraid the magic shield dissipated before he threw it out. What is the level of mental strength of this kid? This kid is simply a pervert. Caecilius cursed a few words in his heart. But soon he came back to his senses. Hurry up, break out. More Chitaurians are coming. With a shout, Caecilius led them to break out. Li Xuan threw the magic shield in his hand as if he didn't want money. But the more so, they increasingly attracted the attention of the Chitauri command node. Although the Chitauri stars do not have a honeycomb structure, their biochemical armor needs to be commanded by a mothership located in outer space. So after the mothership was blasted, the Chitauri lost all power. In other words, everything a Chitauri can see, a mothership can see. Li Xuan and the others killed the army that was sizing up, and the mothership naturally had to command. The Chitauri stars in the surrounding blocks are all mobilizing here. Such a clear movement. Avengers naturally found out. Captain, I noticed a large number of Chitaurians converging towards Fifth Avenue. Do you know what happened? Tony Stark said in the team channel. I don't know. But I know that what the Chitauri people want to do, we must not let them do that. Stark, Thor, go and see what's going on. They cannot continue to spread outside of New York. Captain America spoke while panting heavily. Thor and Tony Stark were ordered to leave. Both of them can fly very quickly across distances. In a few tens of seconds, he reached Fifth Avenue. Then, the two of them stood side by side in silence. Is this human? After a long silence, Tony Stark spoke. Is this human, don't you know? I'm from Asgard. Thor spoke. Look below. This gang of magicians is invincible. With huge amounts of shields in hand, fend off Chidori attacks. There are constantly disc-shaped things flying out of them. Each disc can cause a violent explosion. Dozens of spaceships exploded directly. The killing efficiency is much higher than that of Thor. So that later, this group of Chidori stars did not dare to gather together. But even if it is scattered, the guy surrounded by this group of people has amazing killing efficiency. That kind of attack is really too powerful. What's more important is the flow. In just tens of seconds, Tony Stark saw him throw hundreds of discs. According to his estimate, even if his steel armor constantly launched such an attack, it should have run out of energy. But that guy has no such tendency at all. Who is this? Can the human body contain this level of energy fluctuation? Thor couldn't help but curse. This guy is stronger than their Kamar-Taj warriors. Tony, do you know who this is? Their method looks a bit like a necromancer, but how can a necromancer be so powerful? Thor opened the mouth full of doubts. How do I know this? You don't even know, and I don't even know who this is. But I don't think they're human at all. The energy contained in their bodies is amazing, just like yours. Tony Stark couldn't help the corners of his mouth twitching. He just scanned the people below with an energy scanner. Good guy. Not a single normal person. Everyone's body energy is amazing. The young man in the middle is even more terrifying. Just like a little son. Where did this monster come from? Why has he never heard of it? Tony Stark and Thor didn't get to watch the show for very long. The Chidori's army has gathered here. Not only that. In the sky, there is also a huge whale warship descending from the sky. With a body that is thousands of meters long and extremely hard armor, it is even strong enough to pierce reinforced concrete several meters thick. Transmitted from the portal in the sky. A thick blue light shot down directly from the sky. A full meter of energy rays shot directly towards the ground. Tony Stark and Thor shot straight to the ground. Below them, a building was directly melted by this high-energy plasma flow, and a huge melting mark appeared. Hulk, come help, there's a big guy over here. Tony Stark spoke in the earphones. Thor, it's up to you to hold on to the big guy until the Hulk comes over. I'm going to support the captain and the others. After Tony Stark finished speaking, he rose directly into the sky. Thor. He really wanted to beat Tony Stark to death right now. Leaving him to deal with this battleship by himself, is this something a human can do? This whale battleship is not only a battleship, but also carries a large number of Chidori soldiers. The whale battleship flew by, and the sky was like dumpling, let alone hundreds of Chidori stars fell. Thor was about to meet the enemy. But found out. These Chidori star people rushed towards the group of human magicians. Thor hammered away the Chidori who were blocking the way, and wanted to go to support. Pity. Chidori was just too much, he couldn't move an inch. There. Caecilius also changed his complexion drastically. A large number of Chidori stars flew over here. Huge amounts of whale battleship in the distance, turned around and came back again. Opening that ferocious big mouth, an incomparably thick blue beam shot directly towards this side. For a while, the blue high-energy weapon shot towards this side like a torrential rain. Defense. Caecilius gave a cry. The magicians immediately responded. The energy in the body is like a network, connected into one piece, and a huge joint shield more than 20 meters long directly emerges. Boom. Blue energy radiates. Above the huge amounts of shield, severe ripples are produced. However, Chidori's bombing is still going on, and they have also learned to be smart, knowing that the magicians have powerful melee magic, so they use magic to forcibly bombard them from a distance. This is not the way. Our energy will run out soon. A senior magician shouted. Caecilius also looked gloomy. If there weren't so many magicians here, he would definitely be able to leave calmly. But now, he is the core of this magic shield. As soon as he leaves, I am afraid that the magicians will suffer heavy losses in an instant. What to do? Caecilius was anxious. Let me do it. Li Xuan stepped forward at this time. Before they agreed, the whole person passed through the magic shield. Base. A three-sided magic shield appeared directly in Li Xuan's hand. This magic shield renders glyphs directly, rotating constantly. Directly in front of him, a vortex actually formed. The energy attack fired by the Chidori star was either blocked, or directly bounced off by this weird spinning force. Li Xuan just faced the innumerable rain of energy light directly, and went upstream. The magicians are all dumbfounded. Caecilius kept his eyes fixed, and after careful observation, his face was full of shock. What did he see? This kid is actually taking advantage of the interference between the shields on each side. Why can't magicians use multi-shields? 2 sides at most. It's not that they don't want to. But very difficult. Magical things with energy will naturally produce certain disturbances and disturbances. The slightest disturbance may cause the magic to collapse immediately. What did Li Xuan do? He just used the interference between the magic shields to form something like a vortex. Under his mental manipulation, these disturbances complement each other and directly become a stance. Those energy weapons were either bounced off, or directly absorbed, entering the energy circuit of the magic shield. What kind of genius idea is this? What an exquisite operation. Caecilius has always felt that his ability is excellent. But compared with Li Xuan in front of him, he paled in comparison instantly. The magician next to him also opened his eyes wide, a little stunned. Is this new magic? Caecilius the magician. A magician couldn't help but lamented. No, this is the magic shield. Caecilius twitched the corner of his mouth and said. The magicians were extremely shocked, but they couldn't stop Li Xuan from going upstream. The endless blue energy attacks seemed to not exist in front of his shield. Even, a part of the energy was applied by Li Xuan, and a blue light appeared in the middle of the original golden energy shield. Beautiful and dangerous. In a matter of tens of seconds, Li Xuan broke through directly in front of the group of Chidori. In a burst of blue light, Li Xuan's figure suddenly appeared. Is it enough? Now it's my turn. Li Xuan sneered, and the 3-sided shield that was a little out of control in his hand pierced through the air like a sharp blade. The energy beams were directly cut by the rotating magic shield. Click. The magic shield shot directly into the belly of the huge amounts of whale battleship. For a moment, the world is silent. Next moment, blue golden light burst out. This and that New York seems to have a second sun. The dazzling light can be clearly seen even kilometers away. In a matter of tens of seconds, the dazzling light dissipated. On the street, it was empty. The nearby dilapidated buildings, ruins, buildings, and Chidori floating in the sky were directly vaporized. There was only a huge pit left in place, smoking constantly. On the edge of the big pit. Looking at this, Thor couldn't help swallowing. Gudong. The power of this magic is terrifying. It even made him think of the destroyer he rode nearby. The power that erupted just now probably has the appearance of a destroyer. This is not disparaging. The destroyer controlled by Odin can destroy planets and easily annihilate the surface. It is the highest technological crystallization of Asgard. This magician, but only used a magic, has this kind of power. Thor couldn't help swallowing again. The hand holding the hammer trembled slightly. He saw that this kid was so fierce before, and he planned to compete with each other after the war. Now it seems. There is absolutely no need for this. He was afraid that he would be beaten to death if he couldn't stand a spell. This guy is so perverted. He wanted to complain right now. Well, is Midgard the weakest of the 9 kingdoms? This guy is the weakest. You can't find a few such strong ones in the whole of Asgard. This is too perverted. Stab it. Stab it. In the headset, the sound of electric current constantly sounded. Thor. Answer quickly. What the hell happened to you? My armor energy detection module exploded. What the hell happened to you? Tony Stark's anxious voice rang out from beside his ear. Tony Stark's voice was intermittent over there, and the signal seemed to be very unstable. But Thor didn't answer immediately. He was really shocked. For a moment, he even forgot to answer. This magic, this necromancer, really shocked him. Thor, are you alright? I'm going with Hulk to help. Tony Stark's voice sounded. This anxious voice dragged Thor back from the shock, and he spoke quickly. I'm fine. So what happened? Tony Stark asked again. No big deal, just that young necromancer, a spell that killed half a block of Chidori. Thor smiled wryly. He looked at Li Xuan and thought. It seems that the magician is still under control. If the magic explodes on the ground, I am afraid that the most prosperous neighborhood in New York has disappeared. What? Tony Stark exclaimed. Are you kidding me? A spell that wiped out a street of Chitauri. Is this a 500-kilogram aerial bomb? But Chitauri's exoskeleton cannot be destroyed even by a large yield bomb. A magic. How is it possible to have that kind of power? Tony Stark thought about his over-the-top energy detection device, and couldn't help shivering. If that thing exploded beside him, maybe everyone else would be gone. Who the hell is this guy? Why is it so scary? Tony Stark seemed to be beating a drum in his heart. He even considered waiting until the end of the battle to prepare an anti-magician armor directly. But, just when Tony Stark was about to speak, the armor's siren rang harshly. Tony Stark looked up. Unexpectedly, more Chitauri stars came out and rushed over there. Thor! There are more Chitaurians rushing over there. Careful! Tony Stark yelled, and flew over there. Captain America on the ground also got the news, drove the Quinjet fighter jets, and went to support. There. Li Shuan killed the Chitauri star with one blow, and wanted to come down and talk to Thor. It was the first time he saw the eldest prince of Asgard, and he was quite curious. Book. More Chitaurians are coming. Over there. Aldridge sounded a reminder. Li Shuan looked up and saw more than a dozen whale warships flying towards this side. FK. It's not over yet, is it? Li Shuan stopped in midair. Clap 2 times. A two-sided shield appeared in the hand. Roar. At this moment, a green figure suddenly appeared in the sky. It was Hulk, who jumped from the roof. But, in midair, Hulk saw Li Shuan's figure. The expression on his face instantly became a little distorted, and he danced and wanted to go back. But, he can't fly. It squeaked and fell straight down. Hey, Hulk, buddy. Thor wanted to greet Hulk with a smirk on his face. As a result, Hulk rushed over like a tank, and without a word, he grabbed Thor and placed it in front of him. At the same time, they shouted protests at Li Shuan. Thor. He looked back and saw the fearful expression on Hulk's face, and his heart skipped a beat. What's happening here? For the first time in a long time, he was still scared when he saw Hulk. At the same time, all the Avengers members who came to support came. Seeing this scene, they were greatly shocked. Who is this? They've really learned a lot. Would a reckless guy like Hulk be afraid? What the hell did this magician do? The members of Avengers were full of question marks in their hearts, and their faces were full of doubts. When they are in doubt. In the sky, several whale warships descended from the sky. While flying down, a large number of Chitauri stars landed on both sides. Not only that, their goal is very clear, that is Li Shuan. Not only opening its mouth wide, huge amounts of main guns fired directly. Behind the fins, there are still a large number of missiles fired directly at Li Shuan's. It can be said, with full force. One of the missiles was blocked by a 100-meter building. Boom! Huge amounts of explosions occurred. That building, a building with a height of 100 meters, was directly blown up by a missile, leaving nothing behind. When the flames dissipated, there were only pieces of powder left in place. Such power. Everyone present shrank their pupils. Shuan, be careful. Aldridge reminded loudly. Li Shuan obviously also saw the powerful power of this thing. The gaze is fixed. Snapped. A golden chain appeared in his hand. Without saying a word, he directly manipulated the magic chain in his hand and pulled it out. In his hands, the magic chain was at most as thick as a whip, but when he waved it, it gradually became thicker. In the end, it turned out to be tens of meters long and the thickness of a bucket. This magic chain danced wildly like a spirit snake. Just a circle. Those missiles that could destroy the building with one blow were actually melted and evaporated without any effect at all. Not only that, Li Shuan stretched out his hand and shook it. Snapped. The magic chain smashed towards the whale warship in the sky at a speed beyond sound. Bark. Like a red-hot knife cutting through butter. The extremely hard shell of the whale warship did not play any role, and was directly cut by the high-temperature magic chain. There is no lag in the middle. While waving the magic chain, several whale warships were easily cut off by Li Shuan. Not only that, he also waved the magic chain in his hand to clean up the Chitauri people around him. Every time it is swung, dozens or even hundreds of Chitauri stars are directly vaporized by the powerful force. Gudong. Several members of Avengers have become soy saucers. They watched this scene and swallowed at the same time. I know why Hulk is scared like this. This kind of powerful magic, in our Asgard, my mother may not be able to control it. Thor couldn't help mumbling. Magic. This is not magic, this is a humanoid nuclear weapon. Tony Stark was also dumbfounded. He thought Thor was strong enough. Unexpectedly, there are more powerful ones. Those whale warships that could withstand the bombardment of ordinary weapons were torn apart so easily. This kind of power, even if his arc reactor is fully output, can't match it. Can humans really have such great power? Tony Stark was extremely shocked. Li Xuan has magic in one hand. It directly shocked the people present. That mighty power, even from Asgard, Thor, who had seen the world, felt a little shaken. This kind of power is too perverted. The Chitauri star in the mothership obviously knew this too. In the distance, several whale warships were wandering in the distance, not daring to approach Li Xuan again. I'm afraid that with a single spell from him, these battleships will evaporate again. But they had come to invade after all. Naturally, it is impossible to just retreat like this. Soon, the space crack in the sky projected a lot of special equipment. These devices are directly smelted with the whale warship. He flew over here. Are they here to die? Tony Stark scratched his head and said strangely. Thor over there is watching carefully. Watching the whale battleship flying over in the sky. He thought about it. Those devices look familiar. Soon, he remembered what this thing was. He immediately spoke loudly. That necromancer. Be careful. This is the traction field device on the large towing barge. Most energy attacks will be interfered. Your attack may be useless. Thor spoke loudly. At the same time, he is distraught. It is not easy for the Chitauri to use this trick against any interstellar civilization. Any civilization has corresponding countermeasures. The energy field on the large spaceship can perfectly shield this powerful traction field. But this is Earth. Technology is already several grades behind interstellar. And these Chitauri stars also use the force field of dragging starships to deal with ordinary people. How shameless. Even if he is trapped by this force field, there is nothing he can do. This force field can repel all forces. It's like throwing ordinary people into space, there is nowhere to borrow power, and they can only be slaughtered by others. He looked anxiously at Li Xuan who was in Zhongzhan. Wanting to help but not knowing how. Even Mjolnir would be directly swallowed by this terrifying force. Li Xuan naturally also heard the voice. Do you control the force field? He has no hesitation. The magic chain in his hand was thrown out directly. The huge amounts of whale battleship, and the special device on its back, directly released a special light. Li Xuan's magic chain, which was originally indestructible, seemed to collapse a little bit. Thor couldn't help sighing when he saw it, and shook his head. Is there anything he can do? Sure enough, it's a bit embarrassing. This is a device to deal with starships, how can humans deal with it? Thor was a little frustrated. The only way to face this kind of equipment is to destroy that equipment. In his opinion, Li Xuan is doomed. But he didn't see that Li Xuan was still confident, and the expression on his face didn't change at all. Ding. Detected that the host is using magic chains to deal with unknown force fields. God-level ability produces a critical strike, and your magic has mutated. Your magic chain has produced a force field counter effect. As expected. The system prompt sounded immediately. A smile appeared on the corner of Li Xuan's mouth. Compare means with him. Is it true that his god-level ability is fake? The most powerful part of the god-level ability is that it can produce different changes according to the situation. Li Xuan has no hesitation. The magic chain in his hand was thrown out again. But this time is completely different. His magic chains were no longer golden. Instead, it seemed to be covered with a layer of buzzing blue fluorescence. Under the effect of this fluorescence, on the whale battleship, those blue light force fields have failed. Li Xuan's magic chain flew across the sky, leaving a light blue trail. It looks unremarkable and has no sense of threat at all. But wait until this magic chain touches the whale warship. In an instant, its ferocious fangs were exposed. Bark. There was a soft noise. The magic chain pierced directly into the mouth of the whale warship effortlessly, piercing it through. Within a few milliseconds, the astonishing heat contained in the magic chain erupted inside the whale warship. It's just a moment of effort. The original gray-white whale warship turned into fiery red. It's like a puddle of lava. Several whale warships descended directly from the sky. In just a few seconds, the offensive was instantly reversed. The refitted whale warship is no match for Li Xuan. The audience was silent. Thor, who spoke first, was dumbfounded. Thor, why is the situation different from what you said? Tony Stark complained silently. Ababa. Thor was speechless. He roared crazily in his heart. FK. What's the situation? This is totally unscientific. How could a single creature cope with such an attack? This is specially used to deal with interstellar warships of 100,000 tons or millions of tons. Large interstellar warships are easily dragged by this powerful force field. Result. A necromancer broken by magic. Is this scientific? This is not scientific. The major civilizations have developed technological weapons for millions of years, but they still can't deal with a necromancer. Thor was dumbfounded. The captain over there also looked puzzled. How on earth is this done? Why is his magic suddenly working again? The captain had a question mark on his face. Tony Stark, who had been silent for a long time, spoke. He captured the energy frequency of the force field in an instant. Then used some kind of energy for it to create another layer of magic shield on top of his magic. Use this layer of unknown energy shield to isolate the influence of the spaceship's force field. Captain America. I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds awesome. The shock in Tony Stark's heart was no less than Thor's. For a moment, analyze the opponent's energy encoding method, and then counter it with your own strength. Is this kind of computing speed really achievable by humans? Not even Jarvis can do this. He couldn't believe it. The Chitauri star didn't encode his own force field, he didn't have any encryption. But that's it. The force field was still cracked in tens of seconds. The calculation speed of this guy's brain is probably comparable to the legendary optical brain, right? Is this still human? This can also be called magic. Although Tony Stark doesn't understand how those energies are coded and how they take effect. But he understands the difficulty. This is equivalent to using only the brain to write a calculation program that can run on a supercomputer for several years in an instant. This is really too perverted, right? Tony Stark was filled with shock. He now has doubts about his own intelligence. He claims to be the smartest person on Earth, and his intelligence can crush everything. But now, he thinks, he may not be that smart. The appearance of Li Xuan brought great changes to the New York game. Don't say anything else. There are dozens of whale warships destroyed in the hands of Li Xuan. In the hands of Chitauri, there are not so many such warships. Dozens of ships were destroyed at once, and the Chitauri people were also very heartbroken. Now, the Chitauri star commander in the mothership is not willing. He was extremely angry about this. Why does this kind of existence exist on a weak and fringe planet? I'm afraid that any one of them has the strength of the 5 generals of Obsidian. The Chitauri couldn't help cursing viciously. Not to mention the monster that solved dozens of starships one by one. Even the Avengers have the strength of the 5 generals of Obsidian. How to fight this? Loki, the bloody bug, stupid guy, didn't even provide an iota of information. What's the use of this guy? The Chitauri commander thought again angrily. But soon, he calmed down his anger. Anger is useless. Then he linked him directly to Loki. Loki's profile picture appeared in the communication. Loki, something went wrong with our deal. A strong man hinders our army, you need to kill him. The Chitauri commander spoke. That's not what we agreed to do. This is your problem. I am responsible for opening the portal, and you are responsible for occupying the earth. If you don't, that's your problem. I think that existence should not want to see this. The evil smile on the corner of Loki's mouth is called gloating. Fury welled up in the Chitauri commander's heart, but it wasn't out of control. How do you want to do it? Aren't you known as the #1 magician in the 9 realms? Why are you still shrinking in front of an earth magician? The Chitauri star commander's arch-fire opened the mouth. I am the #1 magician in the 9 realms. No one can call themselves a magician in front of me. I am God. I am not afraid of anyone. Loki flew into a rage, and spoke. Then what are you waiting for? Let's do it. The Chitauri commander spoke very bewitchingly. Loki, who was still furious just now, turned around with a wicked smile on his face. Do you think I'm a fool? Why do you want me to solve your problems? If you let me make a move, it's okay, I will pay 80% of the future harvest. And if you want to lure the Avengers away regardless of the cost, I don't want to be attacked. Loki finally showed his hideous face and spoke. 80%, are you crazy? Also lure the enemy away, what's the use of you? The Chitauri commander suddenly said angrily. Do you agree or disagree? Loki said coldly. Commander Chitauri, the expression on his face is changing. It took half a day before he spoke. Okay, you're ruthless, a deal. As he spoke, he directly hung up the communication. When the communication was hung up, a sneer appeared on his face. It's just a pawn. 2 flowers bloom, each representing a branch. Loki didn't know that other people had so many calculations. Feeling the success of his calculations, Loki gloats. Then the expression on his face became serious. HMPH, there is still someone calling himself a magician in front of me. I want to see who it is. Sneered. Loki flew the Chitauri's flight towards the battlefield. Soon, he saw Li Xuan attacking aggressively. The magic chain in his hand is like a long whip to destroy the world. As soon as it is drawn down, dozens of Chitauri stars will fall. Startled, Loki thought, why is this power so powerful? Is this guy really a magician? There really are magicians on Earth. Loki looked a little terrified. This magic seems to be a billion times more powerful than Asgard magic. Fortunately, although Loki often clamors that he is a magician, in fact, he is a magician. It's half magician and half assassin. The magic he has mastered is also auxiliary, which is not as good as his 2 daggers. At least, his dagger can break through Thor. So, at this moment, Loki's mind is flashing. If the guy is really a magician, that's easy. Loki licked his lips, biding his time. Fortunately, the Chitauri star also kept their promises. A large number of Chitauri star legions appeared, directly leading several members of the Avengers away. Only Li Xuan was left to clean up the miscellaneous soldiers. The opportunity is here. Loki's eyes lit up, and he disappeared out of thin air. This is Loki's most powerful ability, invisibility. Even a powerful existence like Odin is difficult to prevent, which shows how powerful his ability is. Loki quietly, relying on this ability, directly approached Li Xuan. When he was within a certain distance, Loki had an excited expression on his face. The dagger in his hand stabbed at Li Xuan. He saw it. Li Xuan, however, turned around directly like a prophet. Smiling at Loki. His hands stretched out, and suddenly, he caught Loki's 2 daggers directly in his hands. What? It's impossible. Loki's expression changed drastically. Lei Shendu couldn't dodge his sneak attack. How did this guy find out? Nothing is impossible. I found you a long time ago. Do you think that our Kamar Taj magician is a parallel import just like your magician? Li Xuan laughed. Loki's invisibility is really good. Too bad he doesn't understand space at all. In the face of space, everything has nothing to hide. Loki's movements were as conspicuous as the sun in the dark night. Li Xuan had spotted this guy a long time ago. It's just that I didn't expect that this guy really dared to sneak attack. As he said that, Li Xuan slapped Loki directly. Now, Loki still had a look of disbelief on his face. Why? Why was his magic discovered? How can this be? It's just a magician on the earth. How could it be possible to see through his invisibility? Loki gritted his teeth. Leaving a phantom in place, the whole person sneaked up behind Li Xuan again, wanting to carry out a sneak attack. But, Li Xuan was not in the mood to play with him this time. The backhand just punched the guy. Loki flew tens of meters away. It's impossible. A mere mortal. How can a mere mortal see through my magic? Loki yelled in disbelief. The magicians around looked at this guy like they were fools. This child. Isn't it stupid? How perverted is this guy Li Xuan? This is a guy comparable to a big magician. Found you, isn't it normal? It's ridiculous to make such a sound. Loki was horrified. The first time they fought against each other, he discovered the abnormality of this guy Li Xuan. Even at the beginning, the invisibility he was so proud of couldn't be used anymore. Are all the magicians on Earth this perverted? Loki didn't lose confidence, though. From his daring to confront Hulk head-on on Stark's building, it can be seen that Loki is a very courageous person. Now is no exception. Even if the invisibility magic was broken, he still didn't panic at all. Facing a magician, he still has a chance. His close combat is very powerful. After all, he grew up with Thor. When he was young, he liked drunken sailing the most, and his physical fitness was very strong. He can definitely win. Standing up from the ground, Loki looked at Li Xuan. Very good. Mortal, you p********* d me off. I decided to give you a miserable death. Loki raised his head and said proudly. Yeah. Then come on, let me see what level the Asgardians are. Li Xuan smiled. The magic chain in his hand was pulled up directly. The high temperature emanating from above distorted the surrounding air. A look of horror flashed across Loki's face. So fast. Such a high temperature. Even when he was a few meters away, he felt a burst of heat, scorching his face. Fortunately, Loki isn't that simple either. After all, he is an Asgard, and with Frost Titan blood, his fighting instinct is very strong. Body flashed. The magic chain sliced right past Loki's body, leaving a charred trail on the ground. Loki is not such an easy guy either. He moved his hand back, and a blue scepter appeared in his hand. A blue beam of energy shot out directly from his hand, heading towards Li Xuan through the air. Li Xuan didn't move. A shield floating beside him flashed in front of Li Xuan, blocking the ray of light. Loki didn't intend to stop at all. The psychic scepter in his hand shot out a blue energy beam again. Li Xuan easily resisted. You Asgardians, that's the only thing you can do. Li Xuan said a little disappointed. He's still curious about Loki's methods. Maybe he can learn it just by looking at it. Result. That's it. Use the psychic scepter. The point is, this guy hasn't displayed the power of a scepter either. Seeing Li Xuan so contemptuous, Loki was filled with anger. I am a god. You mortal dare to underestimate me so much. Accept God's punishment. Loki growled. The body fluctuated for a while, and 4 phantoms appeared directly. These phantoms rushed up directly with their weapons at the same time. The exact same movement, unexpectedly a bit difficult to distinguish between true and false meaning. Interesting. It's not a pure illusion, but a duplication. Asgard's magic is really unique. Li Xuan had a look of interest on his face. Although Odin is a warrior, he can also use magic. The strongest magician in Asgard is not Frigg, but Odin. In the final battle, Heimdall also borrowed the power of Odin black magic to be able to teleport Hulk. You can see its ability. However, Frigga's magic has been inherited in one continuous line, so it naturally has its own unique features. Li Xuan was very interested. He didn't attack this time, several shields were constantly active on his face, and his defense was impeccable. Give me death. Loki doesn't care about that. The 4 phantoms attacked directly. Among the 4 phantoms, 2 are pure projections, and 1 is indeed a duplication, with a real existence. He directly took out 2 daggers and stabbed at Li Xuan. Colleague, the main body on the front also copied the scepter of the mind, so it stabbed over. All of a sudden, a 2-on-1 situation actually formed. Faced with this situation, Li Xuan did not intend to panic at all. The shield flies. Ding ding. 2 crisp voices sounded. His weapon pierced Li Xuan's magic shield, leaving only 2 crisp sounds, without even producing any ripples. What? Loki froze for a moment. This magic shield is so hard. He didn't take it seriously when he blocked the energy attack before, but now, he can also block the thrust. To know. His dagger is Thor's that can stab him. How terrifying is Thor's body? Despite the hard-to-resistance neutron star energy irradiation, his body was unharmed, and his skin remained unchanged. The defense power is completely comparable to that monster Hulk. It can be said that compared with some magic shields, it is only stronger than weaker. Now, this very powerful piercing attack failed to break through the defense. What kind of evil magic is this? So hard. I'm afraid even their Asgard energy stance doesn't have such terrifying power. Is this kid a pervert? For other magicians, the shields are not that powerful at all. Out of the corner of his eye Loki can see that a magician energy shield has been shot through by the Chidori. This proves the magic shield was not as powerful as he thought. Problematic. It's people. It's the person who casts the magic, it's too perverted. Loki gritted his teeth. The scepter in his hand emitted a blue energy beam again. Then the chance for the magic shield to move. Loki's duplication shot again, and the powerful dagger that Odin bestowed, capable of piercing Thor's body, stabbed at Li Xuan. Li Xuan just missed the blow with a bland stride. With one hand, Loki's duplication hit his body. This is the result that Li Xuan's mind is completely out of it. Interesting. The power of duplication is 80% of that of the main body. This kind of duplication is very powerful. Li Xuan was a little emotional. What is the concept of duplication with 80% combat effectiveness? That is to increase the fighting power several times. There was a sparkle in his eyes. The flow and structure of Loki duplication energy directly fell into Li Xuan's eyes. He had been watching from the beginning of the battle. At this moment, through direct contact, I can finally see clearly. Ding! It is detected that the host is observing the duplication of the spirit body, and the god-level ability produces 100 times critical strike. You have mastered Icon's illusion. The system prompt sounded. An inexplicable smile appeared on the corner of Li Xuan's mouth. Astral duplication. He has it. He's been playing with Loki for so long. Good. Loki, have you fought enough? How about trying me instead? Li Xuan said with a smile. The voice just fell. An identical figure came out from behind Li Xuan with a smile. It is exactly the same as Loki's ghost duplication. Seeing this scene, Loki was furious. Impossible. This is impossible. Loki growled loudly. Loki was shocked. Even trembling a little. He was right. Absolutely not wrong. The energy fluctuations emitted by this guy in front of him are exactly the same as those of Asgard. How can this be? How could this guy know Asgard's magic? Who are you and why are you using Asgard's magic? Loki roared with red eyes. Stronger than Li Xuan's. This made Loki lose his temper even more. Why? Why does this guy have Asgard's magic? Isn't this magic that only his mother can do? Loki was dazed for a moment, holding the scepter's hand, trembling a little. Loki's panic was not only seen by Li Xuan. Aldridge over there also saw it in his eyes. I exclaimed constantly in my heart. It started. This abnormal ability. With a glance, you can learn the magic of others. And when used, it is better than others. Where does this make sense? Seeing Loki, who was a bit out of his wits, Aldridge immediately felt relieved. Sure enough, happiness is built on the suffering of other people. Seeing Loki's distraught expression made him feel better. Thinking of how he used to be like this, Aldridge felt a little embarrassed. Others naturally have no way of knowing what Aldridge is thinking. Loki naturally doesn't know either. He was still a little shaken at the moment, and his face was very ugly. But it's Loki after all. He still reacted quickly. A sneer appeared on his face again. HMPH, you dare to steal our Asgard's magic, you are dead. My father will never forgive you. Loki said loudly. Although Asgard is a cosmic civilization, a lot of technology has been lost. But the core technology has never been rumored. Li Xuan actually learned their Asgard magic. It is simply a way to die. I didn't learn this by stealing. You taught it to me yourself. Li Xuan said lightly. You're talking nonsense. When did I teach you magic? Loki spoke loudly. Your magic, I have seen it, so naturally it is mine. Your magic is too superficial. I learned it at a glance, who do you blame? Li Xuan spread his hands and spoke. Nonsense. How can a mere mortal learn our magic at a glance? Loki said coldly. He was disdainful. Midgard. Just barren land. They didn't even step out of their own planet, and they were praised by primitive people. They, Asgard, fought in the universe thousands of years ago, and gained a large territory. Is this comparable to mortals on Earth? How can mortals learn their magic at a glance? It must be this mean and shameless guy who stole their magic. You shameless thief. You must have studied the tomes we wandered in Midgard. You wait for the sanction of the God King. Loki spoke loudly. In fact, his threat to Li Xuan was secondary. The main reason was that he had the idea of retreating in his heart. This Li Xuan. I really don't know the depth, and the strength is unpredictable. Until now. He didn't feel the depth. If you continue to fight, you will suffer, so you should take it slowly. Intrigue is what he is good at. The sanction of the God King. Are you sure Odin still recognizes your son? The princes of Asgard are all exiled to the earth. Li Xuan said lightly. Loki's eyes turned red all of a sudden. Although Loki is sinister, he is still empathetic. His mother, Loki, has always been very fancy. Odin's preference made him very uncomfortable, and now Li Xuan said it, he immediately lost his mind. You humble mortal, ant, kneel down for me. Loki yelled and rushed straight up. For a while, there was an aura of seeing death as home. But Loki is Loki after all. It is ostensibly in front of Li Xuan. But in fact, this is just a phantom he used with all his strength. Loki's magic is still strong. At his peak, not even Thanos, Odin, could see through his illusions. Li Xuan now has great magician strength, so naturally he can't see through the illusion. Loki actually succeeded in a moment. Ding! A crisp sound sounded. Loki's scepter directly stabbed Li Xuan's lower back. It made a sound like hitting steel. What? Loki was stunned. What's the situation? Why didn't the psychic scepter impale this guy? Instead, there was a sound of steel intersecting. What's the situation? Really good illusion. Li Xuan said. Asgard's magic really has its own uniqueness. As expected, it is a magic that even Odin can be fooled by. Pity. This kid Loki has the ability, but he doesn't study magic seriously, he learns how to be an assassin every day. A family of reckless men. If he practiced magic well, this kid would definitely not be so weak. If the blow had been Thor's stab, he wouldn't have felt so well. Say less. It also hurts for a few seconds. You. Loki took 2 steps back, a look of panic on his face. What me? Prince of Asgard, can't speak anymore. Li Xuan said lightly. Why are you okay? Loki couldn't understand it. This is a psychic scepter, a very powerful weapon. The top materials are used, and the energy is even more tyrannical. Battleships are capable of piercing. This kid. How are you all right? This is impossible. Weapons are good things, it's a pity. People are not good people. Li Xuan grabbed it, and the psychic scepter immediately let go. Loki froze. What's the situation? He was robbed of the white blade with his bare hands. He's from Asgard. Although he hates his own bloodline, he is a hybrid of Frost Titan royal bloodline and Asgard royal bloodline. There is incomparable power in the blood. To be honest, people on Earth are like ants in front of him. He punched down, to say the least, it was a ton of strength. Even if it is not as perverted as Hulk, it is still crushing humans. Now. His weapon was taken away out of thin air. Aren't you a magician? Are the current magicians so vigorous? How can a magician be so powerful? Even his body is so powerful. Same as Thor's thick-skinned pig. The psychic scepter can't break through the defense, but is it so powerful? Just like that, he still has the face to call himself a magician. This kind of power that easily crushes him, even if he wrestles with Thor, he will not be at a disadvantage. Why come against him? Thinking of this, Loki felt a little wronged in his heart. He just wants to rule the earth, what's wrong? Why is this guy targeting him? If it wasn't for maintaining the integrity of the Prince of Asgard, he might have cried directly. So bullying. Where did the monster come from? There is a word called becoming angry from embarrassment. The word fits Loki best. Loki during the Avengers Alliance was very immature. She loves face, has a small belly, and is vicious. It can be said. If Odin wasn't his father, and he had good physical fitness, he would have been beaten to death long ago. Now, Li Xuan snatched the blade empty-handed, and in front of so many people. Loki felt aggrieved and angry at the same time. For a moment, something really happened and turned into anger. Glancing at Li Xuan, Loki suddenly took a step back and shouted. Get rid of this Midgardian. The surrounding Chitauri star people were indifferent. Loki's anger intensified. These Chitauri, vile and shameless villains. When he notifies the Earth in the future, he will definitely make these guys look good. Loki took a deep breath and spoke loudly. The mind scepter is in his hands. If you want to die, you can try not to do it. Saying this sentence has more effect. The Chitauri who were fighting with others immediately gathered around and opened fire on Li Xuan. But Li Xuan is such an easy character to deal with. The magic chain in his hand appeared again, and he flicked it directly. A powerful energy fluctuation erupted, and the flight devices of dozens of Chitauri stars around them exploded directly. Loki gasped. Even after seeing this powerful magic more than once, he still felt shaken. This kind of power is too powerful. See that explosion? Loki calmed down again. Turn around and want to leave. But he left there. Loki, after causing such a catastrophe, you want to just walk away like this? Is it so beautiful? Li Xuan said lightly. Loki stopped abruptly. What do you want? Loki spoke forcefully. Obey, let's get caught, and follow Thor back. For Odin's sake, let you die. Li Xuan said lightly. Li Xuan is not a saint like Ancient One, protecting the earth all his life. Anyway, Loki didn't cause any damage to him, and he also gained benefits, not only experienced a bit of actual combat, but also used a magic spell for nothing. It's just beautiful. Moreover, even Sorcerer Supreme didn't keep him. Even if Loki is an adopted son, it is Odin's adopted son. If it is really killed, you will be done if you see whether Odin is looking for trouble. Even people like Nick Fury, did they say anything? But for the arrogant Loki, this is completely unacceptable condition. Impossible. It is your honor that I come to rule you. You still want me to apologize. What a beautiful idea. I am a god. Loki yelled angrily. Li Xuan shook his head helplessly, without getting angry. Young people just don't know the heights of the sky and the depths of the earth. Just beat me up and be honest. This is a big bear boy. Ugly children on earth just don't have this kind of power and ability, otherwise they're pretty much the same. Li Xuan decided to teach him a lesson that will last a lifetime. Seeing that Li Xuan was silent, Loki was about to speak again. But before he had time, he felt a burst of powerful force emerging from his feet. The whole person flew up. Boom, boom, boom. Li Xuan grabbed Loki's ankle and slammed it hard on the floor. There were dozens of loud bangs in succession, and even the ground was vibrating non-stop. The stones on the ground were trembling non-stop. The magicians around couldn't bear to see this brutal scene. Awful. That's miserable. It is too miserable. He was caught and smashed on the ground like a dead pig. This is really too miserable. The magicians are busy gossiping. Caecilius' mouth twitched as he watched. Is this a tragic thing? This is a perverted non-perverted thing. The magician of Kamar Taj is actually not good at strength. It is said that Kamar Taj is a melee magician, but they rely on magic to melee, not pure strength. The magic they use to exercise strength is only the Kamar Taj fighting technique. But Li Xuan has this power. The cement floor was smashed. This kind of power, to say the least, is a powerful force of hundreds of tons. Is this the power a person can possess? This is too scary. Li Xuan, how did he study? This is an abnormal genius. Caecilius' eyes were shining, and no one knew what was going on in his mind, but his eyes looked more and more gloomy. Li Xuan didn't know that Caecilius was after him. He just tossed Loki and clapped his hands. Loki, however, was simply dumbfounded. At this moment, Loki seemed to have been hit on the head with a sledgehammer. Who I am? Where am I? How is this going? What just happened? Why did he feel like he was run over by a train? Several minutes passed. Loki came back to himself. Fortunately, he was born with strong physical fitness. If it were an ordinary person, he would have already become a mess. Seeing Loki come back to life, Li Xuan said casually. God. That's it. That tone, that demeanor. If it was the previous Loki, I'm afraid he would have been so angry. But, after being beaten, Loki calmed down a lot. Now he feels a little disillusioned. You shouldn't have provoked this monster. This guy is a Hulk in human skin. He is still a Hulk with magic skills, superb fighting skills, and unparalleled defense. Don't say it's him. He suspects now that even if Odin came, it would take a lot of effort to subdue this guy. It's not that he can't. This guy is too perverted. Loki wanted to run away. He doesn't want to be here anymore. Why doesn't he stay in Asgard? Well, drink and watch the theater, what a beautiful thing. Why do you have to come to rule the earth? Isn't this turning on the headlights in the latrine, looking for death? If God can give him a chance, he will never come here. People on earth are really scary. Loki couldn't help shivering. This made Li Xuan almost laugh out loud. Sure enough, a child who has never been beaten will become more honest after a beating. At this time, there was a loud noise in the sky. Li Xuan looked up suddenly. He suddenly found out. In the sky, the crack opened by the tesseract is bigger. Huge amounts of cracks, directly covering a dozen or so city blocks. Visible through cracks. The huge mothership is moving down. At this time, Tony Stark fell from the sky. Okay, I have to interrupt your beautiful business, we need some help. The Chitauri's mothership seems to be coming down. What about the nuclear bomb? Why didn't the nuclear bomb launch? Li Xuan was taken aback. What nuclear bomb? Tony Stark asked. Why don't you nuke that thing? Li Xuan asked. Tony Stark smiled wryly. Magician, you may have misunderstood the nuclear bomb. In space, without the air, the power of the nuclear bomb is actually only slightly greater than that of ordinary missiles, and it is impossible to blow up a powerful flagship. Not to mention, they are an interstellar civilization. We now have the technology to intercept nuclear weapons, how could they not? Tony Stark smiled wryly. Li Xuan also suddenly realized. He patted his head. The movie missed me. Li Xuan was nothing more than communicating with Tony Stark. The crack in the sky widened again. A mechanical creation like the Great Wall descended from the sky. Look at that drive, at least it is thousands of meters long. What is the concept of thousands of meters? Even the largest aircraft carrier in the world is only more than 300 meters away. The largest oil tanker in the world is only 500 meters tall. Less than half of this thing in the sky. From the ground, it looks like the sky is directly pressed down. That kind of feeling is like the sky is falling. If you don't experience it yourself, you won't have experience. Just by looking at the densely packed muzzles above, one can tell that this thing is not a simple command ship, but a giant beast full of fangs. The landing of this huge and incomparable spaceship caused an uproar all over the world. The crowd in New York was even more panicked. Countless people fled in haste. Not just ordinary people. Even the World Security Council is very flustered. This thing, if not killed, has the ability to destroy a country. Now, the Security Council of the world, right up against Nick Fury. Fury, we have to nuke or we can't handle this stuff. Before you said that in space during this period, nuclear bombs cannot pose a threat. What else do you have to say now? He has come to Earth. A member of the World Security Council, he can be described as aggressive. They're not crazy either. In space, nuclear bombs are useless, but now. This thing is already on the Earth, they can't help it, right? If this thing is really allowed, on Earth, I am afraid that America will really be occupied by them. That's New York. Even if a nuclear bomb explodes in the sky, New York will be destroyed and the surrounding cities will be affected. Nick Fury gritted his teeth and said. Why are nuclear weapons the most powerful weapons for mankind? In addition to the power to destroy a city, it can also explode a powerful electromagnetic pulse. If such a nuclear weapon goes down, several cities will suffer. As for the expected radiation, it's really nothing. Modern humans have developed low radiation nuclear weapons, which can reduce radiation to a safe threshold even 2 hours after the explosion. Are these people crazy? Humph, Fury, if we don't let us launch nukes, you have to come up with a solution, right? If they are not stopped, they will take over the Earth. The faces of several World Security Council members turned cold. The Chitauri are the dirtiest army in the galaxy. But the Earth is not even qualified to enter the Milky Way. Chitauri, totally crush them. Say nothing else. The optical brain on the spaceship directly paralyzes the command system of the Earth Army, how to fight. Tony Stark did it so easily, why couldn't Chitauri do it? They have no other choice. No, I absolutely disagree, I believe in my team. Nick Fury said something, and directly forcibly cut off the communication. In S.H.I.E.L.D., he can't control everyone, especially in the case of Hydra. Unable to control it at all, 2 fighter jets set off and directly launched nuclear weapons. New York. Li Xuan got together with the Avengers. Li Xuan's face was extremely calm, and he didn't take it to heart. The Avengers, however, got angry with worry. How do we deal with this thing? The artillery fire is too fierce. Thor couldn't help shaking his head. Now he has not ignored the strength of this powerful starship. I wanted to rush up before, but was directly shot down by fierce artillery fire. So they are sad. Although they got together, there was nothing they could do. This thing is too fierce. Several people discussed with complex expressions, but at this moment, Tony Stark's expression became even uglier. Not good, there is a nuclear bomb flying over here. We can't let this thing explode, or the whole of New York will be destroyed. Tony Stark said anxiously. The faces of several knowledgeable people changed drastically. Nuclear weapons are the most powerful weapons for mankind. The thing exploded, and they were gone. Nuclear. These politicians really like to make trouble for themselves. Li Xuan spoke. New York holy place is here. This is one of the 3 major magic power nodes on the Earth. If the nuclear weapon actually went off, it would be a lot of fun. New York holy place, don't miss out. Let me handle this matter. Li Xuan sighed and said. Master Li, it's not that I question your energy, but what are you going to do about it? Nuclear bombs can explode. Tony Stark doubted. Li Xuan's magic seems to be head-to-head, it's useless at all. The mountain people have their own tricks. After speaking, Li Xuan soared into the sky. The moment he flew up, those cannons that were destroying were directly focused on Li Xuan's face. Like Thanos' flagship against Captain Marvel. Countless cannons fired at Li Xuan. The members of the Avengers were horrified. Is this looking for death? Even Lei Shendu will be seriously injured under this kind of artillery fire. Why did Li Xuan rush forward? This is too reckless. But they didn't talk for long. Li Xuan waved his hand. The Avengers members below all stared wide-eyed. What kind of magic is this? Thor opened his mouth wide and said. I see. In the sky. An incomparably huge amounts of golden light circle appeared. It even directly covered a range of thousands of meters. In the sky, the incomparably huge amounts of flagship-fired artillery fire, all of which entered the golden circle of light. Then, they all disappeared without a trace, without any impact on the earth at all. The magician of the underground. Naturally, it was obvious at a glance that this was a portal. But it was precisely because of this that they were dumbfounded. Is this a F*********** G portal that can be used by one person? The portal can indeed be opened very large. In the final battle, a large number of troops are all sent through portals. It was a portal shared by hundreds of magicians. Can a person use this kind of portal? Aren't you afraid of being squeezed into adulthood? Is the energy in your body endless? This is really too perverted. Caecilius, who is a great magician, also lost his composure. The expression on the face is distorted. Even he can't make such huge amounts of portals. Why is this kid so perverted? Not just them. Even SHIELD's Nick Fury was flabbergasted. What is this thing? Is there anyone else on Earth who can do this? Say nothing else. What about the nuclear bomb that was fired? Nothing left. There is still such a powerful firepower, where did it go? With this magic, isn't it invincible? The power of Li Xuan's magic is really terrifying. In the sky, the huge portal can be said to have suppressed the portal opened by Tesseract. The huge golden portal is a circle larger than the blue portal. The Chitauri commanders in the mothership were all taken aback. They fired out half of the ammunition in the mothership in one go. Now it has no effect. This is really too perverted. In this universe, there is such an outrageous thing. Didn't you say that the Earth is just a primitive planet? Why is there such a perversion? Chitauri's commander, filled with indignation. They didn't dare to get angry at Thanos, so they naturally put their anger on Li Xuan. The more powerful artillery bombarded the ground. Pity. Li Xuan's methods are too powerful. The portal stretches across the sky, let the wind and rain strike you, and I will stand still. All artillery fire was directly absorbed into it. In just a short while, the Chitauri star's mothership went silent. One person. Facing a gigantic starship capable of destroying planets. And start now. But I was deflated in front of Li Xuan alone. The shock that Li Xuan brought to these people can be imagined. Even Thanos in the depths of the universe cast his gaze. But this, no one knows. Just at this time, Li Xuan spoke. You had a great fight just now, didn't you? It's all back to you now. Li Xuan said lightly. A huge amounts of portal emerged again. Countless blue cannon fire emerged from the portal again. This is the power of the portal. With the enemy's attack, attack yourself. Doctor Strange once used the portal to deal with Ebony Maw. Now, Li Xuan used this trick to deal with Chitauri's starship. I saw a magnificent scene. Everyone is dumbfounded. They can't understand the principle of this trick at all. What kind of magic is this? How can you still absorb attacks? Captain America couldn't help scratching his head. How can that be possible? Is magic really that magical? This should be some kind of space magic. However, this magic is a bit big. Thor couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Space magic, they Asgard too. World Tree is very good at space magic. Odin was even able to teleport Thor to Earth. But, this is the first time he has seen this kind of magic used for attacking. Can all portals be used like this? You magicians of Kamar Taj, playful flowers. The corner of Thor's mouth twitched, his face extremely shocked. No wonder their magician ability is strong, the level of magic is not the same as their Asgards at all. Just when several people sighed. In the sky, another change occurred. A large number of attacks were fired from the portal. Chitauri's starship is naturally not defenseless. A thick blue shield emerged above the huge amounts of starship. Those attacks were directly blocked. Boom. 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 Huge amounts of explosions rang out. The sky is full of huge amounts of sparks. Then, they saw that the starship actually started to lift off. The gigantic Chitauri starship wanted to flee in a hurry. Gudong. The sound of the Avengers members swallowing saliva can be clearly heard. I'm not delusional. Is this true? Tony Stark was a little unbelievable. It is true. Hawkeye Barton spoke. He forced back a starship by himself. Thor couldn't help but speak. This is a starship. A huge starship that can travel through the universe and suppress a civilization. Is Thanos awesome? Is Ronan serious? Aren't they going to open a starship? Did they dare to face the starship head on? But now. Li Xuan standing there. A spell was used. The starship, which was originally aggressive and suppressed the Earth, ran away for a long time. Ran. Looking at the huge amounts of blue vector engine nozzles below, you can see how urgent they are to leave. One person forced back a starship. Not to mention in the solar system, in this universe, which one is not a legend who has achieved this? Odin, Sorcerer Supreme, those who say it is not a big name, even the multi-universe, are singing their names. What about Li Xuan? So young and so powerful. What kind of terrifying ability is this? Thor felt that his 500-year-old baby seemed a little out of tune with them on Earth. Thor still sighed in his heart. In the sky, a voice came. Come when you want, leave when you want, do you think my place is a public toilet? Li Xuan smiled calmly and soared into the sky. He stepped on the air as if he was stepping on the ground. The whole person seems to be a sharp arrow, soaring into the sky. What is he doing here? Many people looked at Li Xuan's actions and were confused. Are you not a magician? What are you going to do? Where's your magic? Pity. Li Xuan was destined to lose his voice. For a moment, his speed directly exceeded the speed of sound, and the whole person directly rushed into the sky. Click. There was a loud noise in the sky. Li Xuan's fist directly hit the huge amounts of starship shield. Then everyone saw it. That indestructible huge energy shield. Just being punched by Li Xuan, the hammer split open. It's not over yet. Li Xuan made a move. A golden magic shield appeared in his hand. Next moment, the huge magical shield suddenly swelled up. Like an inflated balloon, it swelled to hundreds of meters in an instant. Li Xuan stretched out his hand. Boom. There was a loud bang. The huge shield cut the huge starship apart with one blow. Then, the explosion happened. The sky turned into flames. All turned red. Huge amounts of flames, constantly rolling in the sky. The whole of New York was illuminated, and everyone looked to the sky. Everyone was stunned. What did they see? One person, one hand, one blow. A starship annihilated. What a terrifying power this is. Is that human being? Even if it is a god, its power is nothing more than that, right? Those who fought side by side with Li Xuan were even more shocked. The starship of the Chitauri star was solved like this. So easy. The sky they looked at felt a little unreal. Loki on the ground was even crying bitterly. Is there something wrong with him? Why did he want to be AB*ch at that time, but provoke such an existence? If God gave him another chance, he would never make this mistake again. And this thought. It's not just in Loki's mind. Chitauri was very unlucky. I met Li Xuan, a pervert. Even if Thanos' flagship appeared here, the fate would not be much better. Now it's just a bunch of Chitauri stars, what can they do? Li Shun made a shot. Their mighty power made Chitauri collapse. The New York War naturally ended. The Chitauri who were still fleeing on the ground were all lying on the ground, losing their ability to move. New York is also nearly half destroyed. Almost half of the city was covered in flames, with wreckage everywhere. For Thanos, it was just a try. But for humans, this is an unforgettable day. Nearly 3 million people died in this war, and the economic losses caused were several trillion US dollars. And this is with Li Shun making a shot and Kamar Taj magician helping out with all his might. If the magicians hadn't saved the streets around the holy place, the loss would have been even more serious. In the eyes of many people, the Great New York War was just one battle. But for many people, it is unforgettable. Why do the Avengers hate Thanos to the bone? Those who have not experienced it will never understand. Fortunately, with Li Shun here, New York's losses were much smaller. So the members of Avengers are very grateful. But when they wanted to find Li Shun, they found that they couldn't find him. Even those magicians disappeared without a trace. Nick Fury on the helicarrier finally breathed a sigh of relief. But his face was still not good looking. And not just because New York was nearly destroyed. Also because of the appearance of Li Shun and magicians. S.H.I.E.L.D. claims to supervise the Earth and investigate all super abilities. But such a powerful force, they don't know it at all. Especially Li Shun. That powerful force. Thinking about it, Nick Fury felt a little trembling and his hands trembled. He is a 10th level S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and he doesn't change his face when Mount Tai collapses in front of him. But now, his body was trembling a little. Enough to see how out of control he is now. It can be said that he was extremely worried. It seems a good thing that there is such a strong man suddenly on the earth, but what if he does evil one day? Wouldn't he be completely unstoppable? For Nick Fury, this is completely unacceptable. Don't look at Nick Fury, he is cold and heartless, he doesn't trust anyone, and he likes to hide. In terms of protecting the earth, he has also worked hard. In this case, Nick Fury couldn't help thinking. Li Shun didn't know. His appearance brought huge amounts of changes to this world. And this change doesn't just affect people on Earth. There is another person who also knows Li Shun's name. This person is Thanos. Thanos is definitely an old and treacherous guy. Without the Avengers knowing his intelligence, he had already seen through all the Avengers. How could he not understand that Li Shun is so powerful? In fact, at this moment, a scene was constantly playing on the screen in front of Thanos. The above is the scene where Li Shun directly blows up the starship with a wave of his hand. That mighty power. Even Thanos couldn't help the corners of his mouth twitching just looking at it. When did such a force appear on Earth? There is such a strong person. This kind of power is probably similar to that of Ebony Maw. The key is that there are too many methods, even for him, it is a bit troublesome to deal with them. Regardless of Thanos' pseudo-level godfather and other strengths, he is invincible on the ground. But he can't do magic. Like Hulk, Thanos is purely physical, without any other abilities. Before infinite gems, his means were really limited. Now, seeing Li Shun's miscellaneous and endless tricks, he naturally looked very ugly. Looking at the starship that was directly blown up, the corners of Thanos' mouth twitched a little, showing that his heart was not as peaceful as he saw. Boom. Thanos couldn't help it, and hammered straight down with his right hand. The huge amounts of power directly formed a wave of air, and the throne that was sitting on it was directly shattered in half. Below him is Ebony Maw. Snap. Kneeling directly on the ground. Master Thanos, a subordinate is useless. Ebony Maw lowered his head and said. Snort. It has nothing to do with you. I didn't expect such a small planet like the Earth to exist. The strength has reached this point. Even if you are the 5 generals of Obsidian, they are not much different from them. Chitauri's failure is normal. Thanos stood up. Curl up your hands. The joints made a sound like frying beans, which showed how powerful his physical body was. But at this moment, Ebony Maw was not in the mood to pay attention to these, and asked. Master Thanos, what should we do? The Chitauri star failed, and our plans for other gemstones also failed. Wait. Thanos said lightly. Wait. Ebony Maw was taken aback. That's right, just wait slowly. We'll find an opportunity. Suddenly there is such a force on the earth, it is almost impossible for us to do it again. Thanos said coldly. We need to wait for the opportunity slowly. As long as we wait enough time, we can attack with the whole army and kill them. Great Lord Thanos, don't you know what we're waiting for? Ebony Maw asked. You'll know when the time comes. Thanos glanced lightly at Ebony Maw. Ebony Maw just felt a chill in his heart, and immediately closed his eyes, not daring to speak anymore. In Thanos' eyes, there was a cold light. What he was waiting for, of course, was Odin's death. The name of Sorcerer Supreme is indeed very famous, but Thanos doesn't know it. Otherwise he will definitely guard Kamar-Taj. But Odin's name, he still knew. Thanos is no young man either. In the universe, it has also been mixed for tens of thousands of years. Naturally, I have seen the time when Odin conquered the universe. He also understands that Odin's strength cannot be provoked by him now. Not to mention, there is such a perverted existence as Hela. But he knows many secrets. Odin's lifespan is nearly over. He just needs to wait slowly. Finally found this opportunity. Li Xuan, the magician of Kamar-Taj. I didn't expect that a small, remote planet would have such a powerful force. It's incredible. But wait until I get infinite gems, let my army appear on Earth. Even Kamar-Taj will perish before my mighty power. There was a cold gleam in Thanos' eyes. A tyrannical force emerges. The air around was trembling. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and support our channel.